Chapter 456. When the spiritual wine entered his body, it quickly turned into pure essence and filled every part of his flesh and blood, allowing the Huangji true force to quickly recover and support the consumption when controlling the divine light. Although the divine light was an ability that could be comprehended and even used by ancient demon kings, but if one wanted to use it, even though the speed was fast, the mana consumption was similarly not small. Without a profound cultivation base, one would not be able to support the divine light for a long period of time. And at this moment, Indra had not truly entered the realm of ancient demon kings. It was already quite difficult to control the divine light. It was also uninterrupted and full speed. The consumption was huge like a tide. Fortunately, there was spiritual wine to supplement, otherwise, it would not be able to support such a strong control of the divine light. But even so, every few breaths, he would have to drink a few mouthfuls of spirit wine. These spirit wine would not increase one's cultivation, but would only replenish one's true power. It was a form of indirect consumption, and it was only him. If it was anyone else, who would drink spirit wine like it was water to replenish their true power. If others saw it, they would feel so painful that even their hearts would tremble. Chun-Shi, little white, nothing can happen to you. You will definitely be fine. Wait for me, wait for me. I will be back soon. You must hold on. Shirtyan's face was cold, but countless thoughts appeared in his mind, flashing crazily. He wanted to go to southern China, Myriad Demon Valley, Chun-Shi, Little White, and so on. Everything. His family and foundation were in southern China. If the foundation was gone, he could build it again. But if Chun-Shi and Little White were gone, he could not imagine what kind of crazy things he would do at that time. The fact that perfected Lord Ku-Rong was able to escape from the Cloud Dream Swamp and the wrath of the Kuan-Pung, the great demon, meant that he must have an amazing supernatural power. If he really rushed to the southern barbarian land, he could not imagine what a huge blow it would be to Chun-Shi and the rest. The 10,000 soul-devouring bones formation hasn't moved yet, so true Lord Ku-Rong must not have attacked the southern barbarian lands yet. Hurry, 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 I must reach the southern barbarian lands before that. In Shirtyan's heart, there was still something else, which was the formation diagram. The myriad bones and soul-devouring formation diagram had always been placed in the Myriad Demon Valley as the strongest barrier against foreign enemies in the entire valley. As long as the formation diagram was fine, the southern barbarians would be fine. He had an inseparable connection with the formation. Although he couldn't control the formation diagram from too far away due to the distance, he could still sense it. If the formation diagram was activated, it was impossible for him not to sense it. At least for now, the formation diagram was still dormant and had not been fully activated. His eyes shone with a stubborn light. He desperately ran his cultivation method and rode on the divine light at the fastest speed. He broke through the sky in the direction of the southern wilderness, faster than a meteor. However, the distance between the two was too far. It was impossible to reach the southern barbarian lands in a short period of time. It would take at least a day to reach there if he were to use the divine light with all his strength. Pass on my order. All the demons in the southern barbarians are to retreat to the Myriad Demon Valley. Pass on my order. Tell Chi-Hua to lead all the demons above the demonic beast level in the valley to prepare for battle at any time. Activate the formation diagram in 45 minutes. In the air above the Myriad Demon Valley, Chun-Shi, who was dressed in a plain palace robe and had an invisible majesty on his face, naturally swept his gaze over the entire valley. He opened his mouth and gave out orders to all the demons in the valley. Although his voice was not loud, it carried a strong majesty, and it reached the ears of all the demons in the valley. Every order was extremely decisive, without the slightest hesitation. Below, there were already more than 100,000 demons in the valley. They all raised their heads and looked at Chun-Shi respectfully. We obey the orders of the demon empress. In the valley there was a chorus of responses. The voices were full of respect. Chun Shi's identity and status as the demon empress had long been unanimously recognized by the demons. This respect came from the bottom of their hearts. The constant propaganda in the valley had made the new demons regard Di Shirtian as the supreme existence in their hearts. He was the king, the indisputable king of the demons in the valley. Everything that Di Shirtian had done in the past had long been known by all the demons in the valley. He could even kill the encirclement of the immortal cultivation world with a flip of his hand. What kind of unparalleled heroism was that? Second only to Di Shirtian was Chun Shi, the recognized demon empress, and Little White. Little White was a princess in the valley. With Little White's pure temperament, she was the favorite of the demons in the valley. They really doted on her like a princess. At this time, when the order was given, the entire Myriad Demon Valley moved completely. All the demons who had been following Di Shirtian's arrangements and had been trained successfully were also displayed. A large number of demons quickly gathered in an orderly manner. Under the leadership of Chi Hua and the others, they quickly formed a neat formation. Their bodies exuded a strong fighting spirit as they stared outside the valley. Outside the valley, there were also many demons who were quickly evacuating into the valley. 45 minutes later, Chun Shi's eyes flashed with a seven-colored luster. He pointed to the void and shouted, "Array, activate!" Rumble. Strange distortions appeared in the void. Amidst the distortions, an incomparably huge array diagram appeared. It covered the entire sky and covered the sun. Countless mysterious talismans and patterns appeared in the array diagram. Each and every one of these diagrams contained an inconceivable power. They contained boundless mysteries and contained the trajectories of the heavens and earth. Within them, one could see the truth of the heavens and earth. It was as if the diagrams were woven together by the trajectories of the heavens and earth. Within the formation diagram, there were also countless mysterious cloud seals that were densely imprinted on it. This was the powerful array left by Di Shirtian. The array diagram was even more powerful than before. When it appeared, the vast aura that was emitted from the array diagram caused the demons in the valley to involuntarily lie on the ground. For a moment, it made the demons feel the power and mystery of the Sakra. The respect in their eyes became even more intense. "Shirtian, now, where are you?" Chun Shi looked at the array, and a thought came to his mind. However, now was obviously not the time to think about this. When he saw the array appear, he pointed again, and a seven-colored divine light burst out and rushed into the array. Then, he shouted again, "Array, activate!" In Chun Shi's shout, the array seemed to recognize his existence. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared mysteriously and hid in heaven and earth. At the same time, when the array was hidden, a layer of grayish-white clouds appeared around the valley out of thin air. The entire Myriad Demon Valley was shrouded in clouds and mist, covering it tightly. This layer of clouds and mist did exist, and it was extremely mysterious. It could be seen with the naked eye, but the demons in the valley could clearly see the scene outside the valley through the clouds and mist. It was as if this layer of clouds and mist was just an illusion, and it could not hide anything from them. But if they looked at the clouds and mist outside the valley, even their divine senses and divine thoughts could not penetrate, let alone their eyes. At the same time, the Myriad Demon Valley was completely isolated from the original heaven and earth. It was in an inexplicable heaven and earth. Around the valley, there were huge mountains of bones rising into the sky. In the mountains of bones, there were endless bones everywhere. At the foot of the mountains of bones, there was a dense army of skeletons everywhere. These skeletons, in their heads, were balls of mysterious soul fire. They had a unique aura of life. They were arranged neatly together, just like an army of skeletons. On the mountains of bones there was a throne made of bones. On the throne there was a skeletal king who looked like a giant. The aura of death on his body was extremely terrifying. There were a total of 8 such mountains of bones, and in the sky above the valley, at the center of the 8 mountains of bones, there was a mountain of bones that was far more vast than the other mountains of bones, and on top of it sat an imperial emperor. The myriad bones, soul-devouring array, had already protected the myriad demon valley. All of this took a long time to describe, but it all happened in the blink of an eye. After true Lord Ku Rong suffered a loss once, he became more careful in his behavior. But not long after, he also found the location of the myriad demon valley. It appeared outside the valley. Looking at the huge area covered by the fog, a hint of surprise appeared in his eyes, but a hint of mockery appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Ha ha! Chen Shi Di Shirtian, do you still recognize me?" True Lord Ku Rong raised his voice and shouted, "Do you really think that an array map can stop me?" As he said that, he sneered inwardly. The array map is indeed real, but it's only a yellow-grade array map. Just this, and you want to stop this true lord? Others may not know, but I know it very well. Array maps were also divided into high and low levels. The division was also according to heaven, earth, mystic, and yellow. The earliest array map was yellow grade. As it slowly accumulated power, it would be promoted to the mystic grade. From the aura it emitted, he felt that the array map in front of him should still be a yellow grade array map. However, it seemed to be on the verge of a breakthrough. Perhaps after a few more battles and accumulating some power, it could be promoted to the mystic grade array map. But now it could not stop him. "Watch me open this small fog," True Lord Ku Rong said coldly. The ancient bell above his head flickered with divine light and shook gently. Clang! The sound of the bell rang out, and the power of life and death spread out from the sound of the bell. It was as if one could feel the cycle of life and death. Wherever the sound of the bell went, the fog that shrouded the valley actually dispersed inch by inch. The scene behind the fog also appeared in his eyes. Chen Shi looked at him without dodging and said indifferently, "True Lord Ku Rong, how dare you come to the southern barbarian land? Aren't you afraid that you won't be able to leave alive after coming in?" A question full of power came out of his mouth without giving true Lord Ku Rong a chance to speak. His tone was condescending, as if he was questioning a servant. As he spoke, a powerful aura pressed down on him like an avalanche. That tone, that threat. When the demons in the valley heard that, their eyes lit up at the same time, and they were secretly delighted. The demon empress was indeed the demon empress. She did not let down the prestige of the myriad demon valley. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author and the original reading. Chapter 457. Demon Empress. The demons in the valley cheered loudly, cheering for the demon empress in their hearts. The fog was dispersed by the ancient bell, and the scene in the valley could not be hidden from perfected Lord Ku Rong's eyes. He looked at Chen Shi as if he wanted to eat him up on the spot. Even his yellow face had turned green. The colors changed continuously as if he had opened a dyeing workshop. He pointed at Chen Shi and his face kept twitching. "Good. Good. Very good." He gritted his teeth and said fiercely, "Demon Empress? You're not worthy. If I don't break this stupid array map today, do you really think that you can sit back and relax with this array map?" "Array map?" Perfected Lord Ku Rong glanced at him disdainfully and sneered. "You want to surpass me when it comes to array maps?" There was a strong sense of confidence and disdain in his voice. There was a hint of coldness and ferocity in his eyes when he glanced at Chen Shi and the demons in the valley. He, perfected Lord Ku Rong, had never been a good person. Those who offended him would never have a good ending. He would take revenge for the slightest grievance. It was enough to describe his temperament. He had always done whatever he wanted and only cared about himself. He never cared about the life or death of others, whether they were good or bad. He could be said to be a completely selfish person. He might not remember those who treated him well in his heart, but if someone had any hatred towards him, he would not forget it until he died. He wanted to take revenge, and that was something he would do all day long. It was endless. He did not expect that he would be scolded by Chen Shi here, as if he was scolding a servant. Those words simply pierced deep into his flesh. It's just a yellow-grade array map. Watch how I break it. When the time comes, let's see what you can rely on. Perfected Lord Ku Rong was completely enraged. His eyes were filled with coldness as he looked at the formation map. He saw the 8 towering bone mountains in the formation map, the 8 white bone emperors sitting on their thrones on the bone mountains, and even the white bone emperor who was suppressing the formation map in the center. A cold sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Clang! The ancient bell above his head vibrated and let out a simple bell sound. Countless flowers and trees were constantly circulating around the bell, appearing lifelike. Around the bell, waves of grayish-white ripples spread out, but they didn't completely disperse. They condensed within 100 feet of the bell. On the clock, scrolls of paintings unfurled one after another. Countless flowers, plants, and trees spread out. It was like a perfect painting. The flowers and plants in the painting were constantly changing. Countless types of strange plants and trees appeared in front of him and danced wantonly around true Lord Ku Rong. Each plant and tree was different, as though it contained all the plants and trees in the world. It gave off a beautiful aura that made people want to throw themselves into it with just a glance. They no longer cared about anything else. It was like a fairyland. Bang! Amid a sound that resembled a wave, true Lord Ku Rong entered the formation map with his ancient bell. Inside the formation map, there was an extremely dense aura of death everywhere. It was like 2 completely different worlds compared to the outside world. There was only the aura of death around, and there was no spiritual energy of heaven and earth. In this place, outsiders couldn't replenish the energy in their bodies at all. However, the sound waves emanating from the ancient bell spread out to cover everything within 30 meters of him. The aura of death was pushed away like tidewater. Looking around, there were piles of bones. The eyes of the undead army flickered with inextinguishable flames as they looked over coldly. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In front of him, thousands of skeleton archers pulled the white bone bows in their hands at the same time and released bone arrows that flickered with a pale white light. They aimed at true Lord Ku Rong and released the arrows before anyone could react. The bone arrows pierced through the void, shining with pale white flames as they shot toward him like a swarm of locusts. Almost all of Ku Rong's vital points were covered, leaving no blind spots. Child's play. With a disdainful sneer, Ku Rong did not even have the mood to pay attention to them. He allowed the thousands of sharp arrows to come whistling towards him. However, before they could touch his body, they were blocked by the sound waves of the ancient bell. They were stopped 100 feet away and could not advance any further. The sound waves distorted the void and crushed the bone arrows, wanting to crush them into powder. Bang, bang, bang! In the stalemate, the bone arrows suddenly flickered with a strange white light, and a violent energy burst out from them. This energy was enough to kill a nascent soul cultivator in an instant. Countless bone arrows exploded one after another. The violent energy carried the pale white flames of death, pouring all of the anger of the undead on the strange sound waves. The explosion of these bone arrows was equivalent to thousands of peak core formation cultivators self-destructing at the same time. The destructive energy that erupted instantly covered 100 feet radius. Inside, countless violent energies were rampaging wildly. Terrifying waves of air were stirred up. Clang! However, a bell suddenly rang in the midst of these violent energies. Once the bell rang, the surrounding void seemed to have strangely paused in an instant. The bell rang, stabilizing the situation. Clang! The sound of the bell rang again. In the void, terrifying ripples swept out in all directions like a tide. As the ripples spread out, the void distorted. Countless sound waves vibrated and crushed the terrifying energy into powder inch by inch, causing it to dissipate into nothingness. TSK, you want to stop me with just these? These are just some small skeletons, I'll crush them all. True Lord Ku Rong let out a strange laugh as he blocked the wave of attacks and casually annihilated them. He walked out and looked at the skeleton legion that was lined up neatly in front of him. With a thought, the ancient bell let out a loud chime again. Countless sound waves distorted the space and rushed toward them like a roaring tide. Rumble! Under the vast power of the ancient bell, the skeleton army couldn't resist at all. In an instant, they were drowned in the sound wave. Under countless vibrations, all of their bones were shattered into powder inch by inch. They disappeared. Roar! Suddenly, a roar was heard. On the Bone Mountain, a skeleton king opened its eyes. The fire in its eyes flickered violently as it let out a furious roar. It pulled out a terrifying battle saber that was thousands of feet long from its side. Its body was overflowing with a powerful aura that was comparable to that of a combination realm cultivator. It glared at the enemy that suddenly barged in and roared. Even the Bone Mountain under it shook violently. The battle saber carried endless power and contained a huge amount of death energy. It slashed down heavily toward Ku Rong as if it was going to split heaven and earth. Good timing. This formation map uses the 8 kings as its foundation. Once the 8 kings are destroyed, the formation map will naturally be broken. When Ku Rong saw this, he was delighted instead of shocked. His body shook and a mysterious energy spread out from his body. It instantly covered a radius of thousands of feet. At the same time, the death energy couldn't penetrate this area. It was as if this area was instantly out of the control of the formation map and turned into another world that was controlled by true Lord Ku Rong. Domain! When Chen Shi saw this, her eyes suddenly focused and her expression became unusually solemn. Domains were not a secret to her. She had obtained an ancient inheritance, so she could tell at a glance that the domain outside Ku Rong's body was condensed by himself. That's right. It was indeed true Lord Ku Rong's own domain. In the domain, all kinds of flowers, plants, and trees could be seen. They were vivid and lifelike as if they were real. However, those flowers and plants in the domain were rapidly growing from seeds to saplings and then into towering trees. In the blink of an eye, they withered and withered. In a few breaths, the concept of withering and blooming between heaven and earth was vividly displayed in the domain. The ancient bell above his head started to spin, fusing the beautiful sceneries on the ancient bell with the domain, making it even more marvelous and extraordinary. The sound of the bell contained the mysterious concept of the cycle of withering and blooming. This was true Lord Ku Rong's domain, the cycle of withering and blooming domain. Life and death were contained in the domain. Clang! The bell of samsara rang out. Within the domain, the tenacious vines suddenly received boundless vitality and began to swell at a rate visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, these vines were as thick as ancient trees. The slender ones were at least thousands of feet long. The surface of the vines was suffused with a mysterious luster and was incomparably tough. They waved out of the domain like spirit snakes. In the blink of an eye, they weaved into a huge shield in front of him. It blocked the terrifying saber that was whistling down. The saber contained a vast amount of death energy, but it couldn't completely cut through the vines. At the same time, hundreds of vines nimbly crossed the boundary of space and appeared in front of the White Bone Emperor. Like a spirit snake, it quickly wrapped around its entire body and tied it up. The vines seemed to contain a powerful force. After tying it up, they resisted the struggle of the White Bone Emperor and pulled it into the domain with a rumble. He was pulled into the domain almost without any changes. Reversal of withering and blooming. Perfected Lord Ku Rong shouted coldly. Suddenly, a mysterious force in the domain fell on the White Bone Emperor's body. Then, the power in his body quickly disappeared like the withering and blooming of plant. The death energy was burning, and as it burned, its power was rapidly decreasing. This was because the power in his body was the burning firewood. Rumble! The bell of samsara that stood in the center of the domain rapidly expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a giant bell that was 1,000 feet tall. It spun and crashed toward the White Bone Emperor. Under the violent collision with the ancient bell, the bones of the White Bone Emperor were annihilated inch by inch. It collapsed on the spot. The bell smashed a White Bone Emperor into powder. On the bell of samsara, only the divine light on the surface surged, and it was not damaged at all. Back then, when the White Bone Emperor resisted the Thousand Beasts sect and other immortal cultivators in the southern wilderness, it had displayed great power and made thousands of cultivators helpless. At this moment, it was easily crushed into powder. The demons in the valley looked at the scene in the formation map, and shock appeared in their eyes. Perfected Lord Ku Rong's action of casually crushing the skeleton king really gave the demons in the valley a fright. They could not imagine that the invading enemy would be so terrifying. Even the White Bone Emperor could not withstand a single blow. Chen Shi's expression also changed slightly, but she immediately regained her composure. Now, she was the pillar of support in the valley. If she lost her composure, the morale of the demons in the valley would definitely plummet. Seeing that the White Bone King was easily killed, it could be said that he had roughly explored a corner of its strength. He thought to himself, with the power of the formation map, if a strong attack touches the domain, it will greatly weaken the strength of the White Bone King inside. Only the Emperor in the center can temporarily resist it. However, this was not a long-term solution. If she couldn't kill him by force, she could only stop him from breaking the formation first. She made a decision in her heart. It should be known that no matter what kind of formation map it was, it had a formation to attack and defend and trap the enemy. If the White Bone Emperor forced himself to fight like that, it was a formation to face the enemy head-on. After all, in the formation map, they were the home field, and anyone who entered would be greatly suppressed. However, if they encountered a strong enemy that even the White Bone Emperor could not match, they would have to operate the hidden formation. Obviously, the current perfected Lord Ku Rong was almost unstoppable. White Bone soul devouring, forming a world of its own. Trap! 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 Chen Shi's expression was full of caution. Her hand drew countless phantoms in front of her, quickly condensed a mysterious seal, and hid it into the formation map. Boom! Waves of rumbling came from the formation map, and the space in the formation map suddenly underwent a magical change. In an instant, the entire formation map world became infinitely large, turning into a chilling world of withered bones. There were piles of white bones everywhere. In the air, a dark green fog appeared out of thin air and filled the entire world. Under this fog, one could only see within a radius of 100 feet. Beyond that, one could no longer see anything. The world was lonely, and a cold wind blew in the air. When it blew on one's body, it was bone-chilling. It seemed that even one's blood was about to freeze, and the life force in one's body was about to be scraped away. In an instant, the formation map turned into a terrifying cage. Inside, there were traps everywhere. In the fog, countless skeletons climbed up from the ground in rows. Strange trees made of white bones opened their ferocious mouths. The White Bone Emperors moved one after another and hid in the fog. The Imperial Emperor who suppressed the center was still standing motionlessly, suppressing the formation map. As long as the Imperial Emperor was not destroyed, the formation map would not be broken. Once the formation map's space evolved, the world became countless times larger. If one wanted to find the Imperial Emperor again, it would be many times more difficult than before. TSK. Do you think you can trap this true lord like this? So what if the formation diagram evolves? It will only make me waste a bit more time. How long can a mere yellow-grade formation diagram stop this true lord? Perfected Lord Ku Rong saw the sudden change in the formation map. The fog could not disappear on its own and needed to be dispersed bit by bit. This fog was the power produced by the formation map's communication with the world. Whether it was his divine sense or his eyesight, he could only see through 100 feet. However, in his eyes, this seemed like a clown's action. At most, I'll be able to break your formation map in one day. Don't tell me that someone will come to save you? He sneered disdainfully. He didn't withdraw his domain. The bell of reincarnation above his head continued to sway, producing loud chimes. He lifted his foot and walked forward. When he reached the fog in front of him, the ancient bell shook. The green pearl embedded in the ancient bell burst forth with a pure energy. It turned into a green divine light and spread in all directions with the bell chimes. Wherever it went, an incomparably pure life force would disperse the surrounding fog inch by inch. There was no sense of direction in the formation map, but he did not seem to be looking for a specific direction at all. He walked casually, dispelling the fog and crushing the skeletons. The places where the fog was dispersed were filled with life force. The fog could not get close to him, so the places where he walked became clear. Sure enough, if this continued, the fog in the entire formation map's space would be dispelled in one day. When that time came, the Imperial Emperor inside would not be able to break the formation map for nothing. Chun Shi's expression was solemn. He raised his voice to the demons in the valley and said, "All demons, listen to my order and enter the forbidden area in the valley immediately." Enter the forbidden area? When Chihua heard this, his expression changed. He hurriedly said, "Demon Empress, the forbidden area in the valley was set up by the king himself. He also set a ban that forbade anyone from entering the forbidden area. Those who disobey will be killed without mercy." Bai Susu and the others were also shocked. They looked up at Chun Shi at the same time. Although Chun Shi was the demon empress, no matter what, Di Shirtian's orders were always their first priority. They did not dare to forget for a moment. The forbidden area in the valley was none other than the area where the mysterious tomb was located. After the series of events back then, Di Shirtian's sharp senses felt that the tomb was very unusual. Furthermore, there was that terrifying tombstone blocking the path. No one would be able to walk to the back of the tombstone. Firstly, it was mysterious. Secondly, it was too dangerous. Therefore, back then, he had cautiously set up a ban. No living beings or even demons were allowed to enter the forbidden area. Those who disobeyed would be killed without mercy. This ban was not as deep in the hearts of the demons who came later as Chihua and the others. Although they knew about this matter, they did not pay too much attention to it. They just did not go near the forbidden area. It did not affect anything in the valley. The situation is critical now. As for Shirtian, I will talk to him. If anything happens, I will take responsibility. Chen Shi pondered for a moment and glanced at Chihua and the others. In the great cultivation environment in the valley, and with the pagoda to speed up their cultivation, the 5 Chihua brothers who followed Di Shirtian at the beginning had already formed their inner cores. They could be said to be the first batch of elders. They were even more loyal to him. She also had to consider their opinions. Now that Shirtian is not here, I am in charge of everything in the valley. Could it be you don't even listen to my orders? We don't dare. Seeing this, Chihua and the others could only agree. They turned around and began to call for the other demons to retreat to the forbidden area. Not good, the formation has been activated. Even a white bone king has fallen. Could it really be that villain Ku Rong? They were already halfway through the journey to the southern wilderness. However, halfway through, Di Shirtian's expression changed and became abnormally ugly. At this moment, he clearly felt that the formation placed in the southern wilderness had been activated, and a white bone king had fallen in an instant. What did this mean? This meant that the enemy was so powerful that even the formation map could not resist it. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.audiobook.com. Chidian. Calm. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 458. How could true Lord Ku Rong suddenly become so powerful? In the divine light, Medusa looked at Di Shirtian's anxious expression and secretly envied Chen, Shi and Little White for being so concerned about them. She could not help but feel strange and frowned slightly. I remember that in the 100 Flowers Valley back then, although his strength was indeed above ours, it was not too much. With the power of the formation that even a combination realm cultivator could not break, it would take at least the strength of a tribulation to kill the White Bone King in the formation. How could he suddenly have such an incredible cultivation in such a short time? Indeed, according to common sense, if one wanted to make such amazing progress in just a short 10 years, unless they were like Di Shirtian, who cultivated the peerless cultivation method, Huangji shocking the world, they could not only absorb the power of heaven and earth, the essence of the sun and the moon, but also the power of desires like the 7 emotions and 6 desires. With the support of a large amount of spirit wine, they could have anything they wanted. They had everything for cultivation, so they had a huge treasury early on. In addition, the exquisite pagoda reversed time and space, causing the cultivation world to be dozens or hundreds of times stronger. That was why they could have such a cultivation today. Medusa could not figure out how perfected Lord Ku Rong was able to possess strength comparable to or even surpass the Sakra in such a short period of time. However, after thinking about it, she realized that there was no lack of geniuses or fortuitous encounters in this world. Anything could happen in the vast thousand worlds. If the formation is broken, how can Chen, Shi, and the others block it? Sakra's heart was burning like a raging fire. He was so anxious that even his eyebrows were on fire. The formation map was almost the most powerful and solid barrier in the myriad Demon Valley. Now that the formation map had been broken, he was afraid that there was not much power in the valley that could resist the enemy. Chen, Shi, and Little White were in danger. No, faster. This damn divine light, why can't it be faster? Sakra crazily poured spirit wine into his mouth again and again. His heart had already reached the edge of madness. Even if the divine light outside his body was already fast enough, but in his heart at this moment, it was always slow and could not alleviate the anxiety in his heart. It is a shame you did not have the chance to perfect your Extreme King's shocking book. If you had used the other godlights to create your own, you would have been able to control them a few times faster than this ordinary godlight. No, it would have been a dozen times faster. Even if I have the cultivation method of other divine lights, I don't have time for you to comprehend and cultivate now. In the underworld shook its head secretly and sighed. To be honest, in its heart, even in ancient times, it had seen countless peerless geniuses and peerless heroes. It had to admit that Di was crazy, brave, and at the same time, he was lucky enough to create the Book of Huangji shocking the world. At the same time, he was able to create such a unique book. In its eyes, this unique book was enough to enter the list of the 10 most powerful cultivation methods in the world. However, due to the limitations of his vision and cultivation, this book was only a rough draft. Only the first 3 tiers were truly complete. As for the 4th tier, he was still in the process of perfecting it. This was because the first 3 tiers were for the first transformation to 3rd transformation of the Yaodan. The 4th tier was for the ancient Demon King. That would involve the domain and the scope of one's own inner world. This was not a domain that he could reach in the past. He could only continuously improve and modify it as he cultivated. Now, the 4th stage was not only a problem of the domain, but also the problem of creating a unique divine light. All of these required a huge amount of precipitation to be created with supreme wisdom. Underworld, now is not the time to talk nonsense. Quickly help me think of a way. Do you still want me to help you find the Book of Underworld? If something happens to Chen, Shi, and Little White, I can't guarantee what I will do. When Sakra heard Dark's nonsense, he couldn't help but turn his anger into a roar and vent it at Dark. Since the beginning, he could be considered to have been rather courteous to Ming. After all, Ming would always provide him with great guidance. But now, he was anxious to the point that he was about to go mad. His mind was filled with the scenes of him, Chenxi, and Xiaobai in the past. Suddenly, an indescribable feeling flashed in his heart. Thinking about it, did he not care enough about Chen Shi and Little White? Did he put most of his attention on improving his strength, building the demon city, and saving his mother, and neglected them? At this moment, he realized how important they were in his heart. This kind of anxiety only appeared when he saw his mother and younger brother and sister being arrested in the Tiger Hill Mountains. "How dare you shout at me?" Underworld was so angry that he blew his dragon whiskers. He was about to say something, but when he saw Di Shirtian's anxious expression, he swallowed his anger and said angrily, "Humph, lunatic Di, don't say that I don't want to help you. If you want to reach the southern barbarian lands faster, there is no other way. There is another way." "What way?" Di Shirtian's body trembled and he quickly asked. A glint flashed in his eyes. "Although you can't cultivate other divine lights, and it's too late even if you can, don't forget that I, Underworld, am the most powerful treasure in the world. I am the soul of the Book of Underworld and my master's unique divine light, Blue Sky Huang Quan. It is also a rare and powerful divine light in the world. Not only can it be used to travel, but it can also be used to fight enemies. It can transform into Blue Sky Huang Quan. Who doesn't tremble in fear when they hear it? Coincidentally, I also know this divine light," Underworld said proudly, but then he paused and said, But what?" Di Shirtian didn't have time to listen to him, so he quickly asked, "But what?" Underworld smiled bitterly and said, "If I was in my prime, Blue Sky Huang Quan could easily use it. But now, my strength is less than 1,000th of what it used to be. If I want to use it, I have to pay a great price." There was a hint of helplessness in his voice as he glanced at the 19 layers of Underworld Prison. At this moment, Underworld Prison was very different from when it was first created. It was illusory and seemed to be about to be destroyed at any time. After absorbing a large amount of divine soul power and devouring the souls of many savage beasts, Underworld Prison had become more and more stable. Every layer was 1,000 feet wide. Once it was stable, it would be difficult to destroy Underworld Prison. At that time, the heavenly punishment divine I would transform and be upgraded. "What's the price?" Di Shirtian frowned slightly. "If you want to use it, you have to sacrifice the primordial spirit clone of the ancient giant that was suppressed in Underworld Prison. You have to burn the primordial spirit and pour all the power into my body. Only then will I be able to use the divine light and rush back to the southern barbarian lands at the fastest speed." Underworld said with some indignation, "But I originally planned to use this primordial spirit clone to strengthen Underworld Prison and make it completely stable so that the heavenly punishment divine I can be upgraded. Once it is sacrificed, it will consume hundreds of thousands of savage beasts' souls to stabilize Underworld Prison and upgrade the heavenly punishment divine I. Underworld Prison will be completely empty. The loss is too great." Underworld muttered indignantly. To be honest, it had now regarded Underworld Prison as its home. It wanted to make plans for Underworld Prison wholeheartedly. The loss now was like cutting off a piece of meat from its body. Although it was reluctant to do so, it knew how Di Shirtian felt at the moment. No matter how reluctant it was, it still had to do something. Primordial spirit clone? Sakra didn't even have the slightest bit of hesitation as he roared, "What's the big deal about this thing? If it's gone, we can still find more. 100 primordial spirit clones can't even compare to a single strand of hair of Chenxi and Little White. I will become stronger in the future. These things are nothing." Tribulation Transcendence, Immortal Ascension, and the divine soul of an immortal, they will all be used in the future. Sacrifice it and use the blue sky, Huang Quan, immediately. Chen Shi and the others can't delay it any longer. Di Shitian's heart kept beating in fear. He could clearly feel how great the danger was approaching Chen Shi and the others at this moment. No matter how precious the things were, they were not in his eyes now. Sacrifice it. Nether didn't say anything else. Its dragon eyes stared at the altar that suppressed the primordial spirit clone. It stretched out its dragon claw and shot out a beam of blood-red light. It landed on the altar and turned into countless mysterious runes. These runes danced vividly and wrapped around the primordial spirit clone, turning into a ball of blood-red flame that began to burn fiercely. The flame was burning the primordial spirit power in the clone's body. Intense pain drowned him like a tide. He couldn't help but roar crazily, "How dare you kill me? You will die a horrible death. My true self will come and find you for revenge. Once I die, my true self will sense it. You are dead. If I die, I will bury you with me." Nether didn't care about the roars at all. It quickly devoured the great power from the burning primordial spirit into its body. Countless beams of blood-red light appeared on the surface of its body, and a great aura was constantly growing stronger. By Luo Huang Quan. Dark roared as it stretched out its dragon claw and pointed forward. In a split second, Sakra saw a vast yellow spring river appear in front of him, and it was shrouded in jade light. It roared like an ancient dragon. It emitted an ancient aura. "Go up." This Huang Quan divine light swept Di Shitian and Medusa into the divine light. The Huang Quan shot through the sky. In the blink of an eye, the original scenery was long gone. It was many times faster than the divine light from before. In the blink of an eye, it had crossed thousands of mountains and rivers. In an instant, it had crossed thousands of miles. Chen Shi and the others led the group of monsters into the forbidden area of the valley. The forbidden area was extremely desolate, because of the original ban, and also because this place was too strange, no animals could live here. It was very desolate. After entering the forbidden area, the first thing they saw was the towering ancient tombstone. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 459. The surrounding area was barren, and there were all kinds of stones piled up everywhere. There was no sign of life, and there was an inexplicable cold aura. The tombstone stood in the center. Although it didn't look very big, it blocked everyone's line of sight. No one could see what was behind the tombstone. The tombstone emitted traces of desolation and an inexplicable sense of death. An obscure aura surrounded the tombstone, bringing out waves of profound charm. There were all kinds of mysterious patterns on the tombstone, and they were distributed around the edges, revealing an ancient charm. This tombstone grew out of the ground, and there wasn't even a crack. It was very strange. Demon Empress, this is the forbidden area. Back then, this subordinate entered this place and touched that tombstone. He was completely frozen to death by the cold power that burst out from the tombstone. You must be careful, don't get too close to the tombstone. Once bitten, twice shy. Back then, he had almost died on this tombstone. Now that he saw it, his eyes were still filled with fear. He quickly reminded Chen Shi. That's right, Demon Empress. Susu came here with His Majesty in the past, and even His Majesty was injured by him. By Susu followed beside Chenxi. Her plain clothes gave her a very delicate temperament. Even the words she spoke had a kind of gentleness. Thinking of the scene back then, the scene of Di Shitian being injured by the tombstone appeared in her mind. There was a hint of melancholy. This is that tombstone. Chen Shi took a few steps forward and stood in front of the tombstone. However, she was cautious and didn't get too close. Once she touched the tombstone, there might be a burst of terrifying power. That was not what she wanted to see. On the tombstone there were some ancient seal words. Even if you have a peerless face, even if you are a peerless genius, even if you have lived for eternity, once the sky falls, the blood of billions of lives. Diagram of gods and demons. 9 ancient lamps. Blood altar. Demon summoning banner. Summon primogenitor. Chen, she read out the inscriptions on the tombstone in a low voice. This inscription was more than what Di Shirtian saw when he came here. She was not surprised when she saw it. She was secretly surprised and said, "Isn't this the mysterious seal script that appeared in the sky above the southern wilderness? So it came from here. This seal text doesn't seem to be a funeral text. Instead, it seems to be some kind of prediction. The funeral oration should not be like this." However, Chen, she could not figure out the meaning of the inscriptions. However, the inscriptions at the back seemed to be the names of some treasures. The diagram of gods and demons? 9 ancient lamps? Blood altar? Demon summoning banner. Just by hearing these, one could tell that they were definitely not ordinary treasures. Among them, the demon summoning banner was the most precious treasure of the demon race. What was the godly demon diagram? What were the 9 ancient lamps? Back then, Shirtian had once said that an ancient netherworld lamp had been born in the Huangquan River in the heavenly demon secret realm. It tore through the air and flew away. Could it be that it was also one of the 9 ancient lamps? Countless thoughts flashed through his mind rapidly. However, all of this happened in an instant. He came back to his senses and looked at the group of demons that had followed him. He said in a deep voice, "Everyone, scatter to the 2 sides of the tombstone. I'll cast a secret technique to conceal this place. When the time comes, we might be able to use this tombstone to resist Ku Rong's arrogance and ferocity." At his command, Chi Hua and the rest quickly led the group of demons to the 2 sides of the tombstone. Deep Valley Mirage. A flower basket appeared in Chen Shi's hand. Strange flowers were placed in the basket. These strange flowers were different. There were more than hundreds of them. She had used the flower basket to refine different kinds of energy to condense them into flowers. Chen Shi had used the flower basket to refine different kinds of energy to condense them. They were all different. There was the 100 poisons 1000 miasma flower condensed from miasma. There was also the frost flower condensed from cold air. There was also the mirage 1000 illusion flower condensed from cloud. All kinds of energy in the world could be condensed into various strange flowers. Each of these strange flowers could be used to cast all kinds of mystical abilities and secret technique. For example, the Mirage 1000 illusion flower could be used to cast the mirage of the Deep Valley Mirage. Chen Shi took out a Mirage 1000 illusion flower from the flower basket and tossed it into the air. Suddenly, the Mirage 1000 illusion flower emitted a dreamy divine light. Bursts of floral fragrance wafted out and spun continuously in the air. Every time it spun, countless different kinds of flowers would appear out of thin air. Hundreds of flowers bloomed together and floated down, turning the entire forbidden area into a sea of flowers. Under the cover of the sea of flowers, it was very strange. The hundreds of thousands of demons disappeared like illusions. From the outside, one could only see the dreamy sea of flowers in front of them. Nothing else could be seen. Even the fragrance in the air was very clear. No one would suspect that what was in front of them was actually an illusory mirage. Furthermore, this illusory sea of flowers had blended in with the surrounding environment. It was impossible to tell if it was real or fake. It had truly reached a state where the fake could be mistaken for the real. Break, break, break. In the formation map, perfected Lord Ku Rong was almost unrestrained. All the traps and ambushes could not even get close to him under the ancient bell above his head. They were crushed into powder on the spot. The fog in the formation map was dispelled at a speed visible to the naked eye, and large areas appeared in front of him. His speed was quite fast. Even in the formation map, he did not seem to be affected at all, and he did not care if he could replenish his vital essence. Moreover, there was no dispirited expression on his face at all. It was really strange. In less than half a day, he had already appeared in front of the Emperor. The Samsara domain and the reincarnation bell. The Samsara staff. All the techniques were used. In almost a moment, the unstoppable white bone Emperor was crushed into powder. How can a mere formation diagram stop this true monarch's footsteps? Perfected Lord Ku Rong stood at the spot where the white bone Emperor had fallen, and said disdainfully. He waved the Samsara staff in his hand in the void above his head, and with a whoosh, a crack was torn open on the spot. He walked forward and walked in leisurely. A series of ripples appeared out of nowhere in the Thousand Demon Valley. Perfected Lord Ku Rong walked out of it. He then scanned the surroundings. He saw the Inch-In Pagoda and various other buildings that he did not have time to take away. Immediately, a mocking expression appeared on his face. The demon race is destined to decline. It's simply wishful thinking to want to rise again like the human race. Let this true monarch completely shatter your dreams. With a cold smile, he casually struck out with his staff and hit the pagoda in the valley. Under the strike of the staff, the pagoda was destroyed inch by inch and completely shattered. Then, he raised his eyes and looked around. With a move of his feet, he broke through the air towards the west of the valley. In an instant, he arrived in front of the sea of flowers. In his two eyes, the left one turned gray while the right one turned white, shining with divine light. He looked forward and landed on the sea of flowers with a look of surprise on his face. It's actually real. This sea of flowers really contains a huge amount of essence of 100 flowers. It's not an illusion. I clearly felt that Chen Shi and the others were coming here. How did they disappear? There's something wrong with this sea of flowers. Perfected Lord Ku Rong frowned slightly and looked at the sea of flowers in front of him. In the sea of flowers, he indeed saw a huge amount of pure essence of 100 flowers. This was something that could only be breathed out by 100 flowers. A fake illusion could not be so realistic. Whether there's a problem or not, I'll smash the sea of flowers with my staff. However, Perfected Lord Ku Rong did not think too much about it. In his eyes, all schemes were illusory in the face of absolute power and could be broken easily. Right now, he was the absolute power. In the face of absolute power, all schemes were futile. Rumble! The Ku Rong staff instantly became incomparably huge. It was hundreds of feet long and laid horizontally in the air. Vast and mighty power was released from the staff, causing the surrounding space to distort. It was clear how vast and unparalleled the power contained in the staff was. When it smashed down and broke through the air, the space under the staff could not withstand the tyrannical power and cracked and was annihilated in large areas. Coincidentally, the place his staff smashed towards was the towering tombstone in the valley that seemed to have existed since time immemorial. Ku Rong had even used most of his strength to smash it with his staff. The power was so strong that it could almost tear the void apart. What was a tombstone? It was an existence that even Di Shirtian was extremely wary of and had long listed as a forbidden area. It was a strange existence that almost died there back then. When it was not touched, it was as calm as an ordinary ancient tombstone. However, once it was touched, this tombstone would immediately become the most terrifying killing weapon in the world. They couldn't even touch it, let alone attack it. Ku Rong's staff was simply stroking a tiger's butt. Bang! The Ku Rong staff smashed heavily on the tombstone. The tombstone's hardness was immeasurable. The powerful rebound force traveled along the staff to Ku Rong's hand, causing his expression to change slightly. He said curiously, what did I hit? Why is it so hard?" Before he could recover from his shock, rumble. Suddenly, the entire valley shook violently. It was as if a sleeping giant had been awakened in an instant and let out an angry roar. A terrifying aura swept out in all directions. The surrounding sea of flowers was instantly destroyed. It disappeared like a balloon. Without the cover of the sea of flowers, the figures of Chen Shi and the other monsters were all suddenly revealed. Suddenly, the tombstone also appeared in Ku Rong's eyes. The tombstone was extremely mysterious. It seemed to be able to sense who was attacking it. A mysterious force rushed out of the tombstone. It did not affect anything else and only rushed toward Ku Rong. Between the tombstone and Ku Rong, on the ground, terrifying ice crystals that were a few meters high formed. Even the stones were frozen and shattered into countless powder. Wherever it passed, everything was frozen. It appeared in front of Ku Rong almost unstoppable. Ancient tomb of the divine god. How can there be an ancient tomb of the divine god here? It's impossible. Ku Rong's expression changed drastically on the spot. He exclaimed in horror, his face full of disbelief. It was as if he could not believe what he saw. It was completely out of his expectations. However, there was a touch of fear and a touch of greed in the midst of the shock. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 460. Boom! The cold power that burst out of the tombstone rushed toward him. The cold power was so shocking that it could be clearly felt from the ice crystals that were several meters thick that condensed in the air. Moreover, it seemed to be extremely fast, and a mysterious power from the tombstone locked Ku Rong in an instant. There was no way for him to escape or avoid it. It's the legendary ancient tomb of the god of sin, it must be. If I can become the owner of the tomb of the god of sin, the ancient giants and peerless powerhouses won't be a problem. I've obtained a great opportunity before Ku Rong, and half of my cultivation base has been restored. Now I've encountered the tomb of the god of sin. Haha, it must be my destiny. I'm the real protagonist of heaven and earth with great luck. This mere power of ice won't be able to hurt me. I have the mandate of heaven on me. Break it. When true Lord Ku Rong saw the mysterious tombstone that stood proudly in front of him as if it grew out of the earth, he was terrified, but at the same time, a strong sense of greed appeared in his eyes. For a moment, he seemed to have seen himself obtaining the tomb of the god of sin, becoming the owner of the tomb, and standing at the same height as the peerless powerhouses. He almost went crazy, and his eyes turned red. Looking at the cold power that was rushing toward him, he pointed at the ancient bell above his head, and the reincarnation bell immediately let out a mighty bell ring. The moment the bell rang, the countless flowers, plants, and trees that were branded on the bell turned into a beautiful picture scroll that flew out along with the sound wave and covered the sky above his head. It was as if this area had become his unique domain where everything was under his control. Whoosh! Nevertheless, it seemed that true Lord Ku Rong was not the main character that he had imagined and was blessed with great luck. The chilly air that burst out from the tombstone came in an instant and touched the gorgeous picture scroll that was spread out from the ancient bell. Countless flowers, plants, and trees seemed to have come alive as they burst out with extremely powerful forces and emitted a powerful green divine light to block the chilly air outside. However, the frigid aura was unstoppable. Wherever it passed, thick layers of ice crystals would appear on the seemingly real and illusory plants, sealing them in ice. Not only were they lifelike, but even the second wood power they exuded was frozen in ice. It was terrifying. Although the cold power slowed down its advance, it did not stop at all and continued to rush toward true Lord Ku Rong like a tide. It was as if he would not give up until he sealed true Lord Ku Rong in ice. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of Ku Rong. What a domineering chill! Protect me with the reincarnation bell? Ku Rong's expression changed. However, the madness in his eyes became even more intense. He let out a wild roar, and the sound of the bell rang continuously. Suddenly, a strong green divine light gushed out from the green pearl embedded at the top of the ancient bell. It covered the ancient bell, and turned it into a green color. Countless green chi hung down from the ancient bell and weaved into a barrier, blocking the cold air. The cold air and the green light collided, and with a loud boom, the space at the point of collision was distorted and annihilated by the terrifying power that erupted from the collision. Large amounts of ice crystals spread out in all directions, as if they were going to freeze the entire world. That ice could even freeze the void. However, the green light in front of it was unexpectedly tough. Although it kept shaking, and even the green light was about to be frozen, with the support of the ancient bell, there was no sign of it collapsing. Bang! Finally, after a short stalemate, the vast cold power was exhausted. What a domineering tombstone! What a terrifying cold power! How could that bullsh *T true lord block that? After a long time, Chihua exhaled a mouthful of turbid air from his chest. He looked in front of him in shock. There was still a glittering path of ice crystals in the distance between the tombstone and Ku Rong. It was like a huge iceberg, and the cold air it exuded could be clearly felt even if one was standing hundreds of feet away. Ku Rong is not powerful. It's his ancient bell. No, it should be the pearl embedded in the ancient bell. Chen Shi's eyes fell on the ancient bell and stared at the green pearl without blinking. At that moment, she clearly saw that the green light was emitted from the pearl. Obviously, the real treasure was the green pearl. No wonder the king wants to list this place as a forbidden area and not let us enter casually. Turns out that it's really that scary. Bai Susu said with a hint of realization in her shock. If it was them who attacked just now, no one would be able to escape from that cold power. Haha, this bullsh *T true lord will be hard-pressed to survive this time. Look, the tombstone is doing something new again. The Black Ape King opened his eyes wide and watched the development of the situation without blinking. Rumble? Sure enough, the tombstone seemed to have a spirit that ordinary people could not imagine. After seeing that its ice power was unable to freeze the ant that had offended the forbidden area, it was really angry. The tombstone shook. The tombstone grew on the ground, so when the tombstone shook, the entire myriad demon valley shook violently. It was as if there was an unparalleled ferocious beast that had existed since ancient times was about to wake up. A vast power surged into the sky. The clouds in the sky were frozen. Bang! When the shaking reached its most intense, the tombstone suddenly rose from the ground. The ancient tombstone did not flash with any brilliance, nor did it have a vast aura. Even the cold power emitted from its surface was instantly withdrawn. What was left was only the ancient seal script on the tombstone. Other than that, it was just an ordinary tombstone. The tombstone flew into the air and appeared above Ku Rong's head. The tombstone gently pressed down. On the surface, there was no power. However, when this seemingly ordinary tombstone came crashing down, Ku Rong's expression changed. His expression turned incredibly unsightly. He realized that the space around him had unknowingly locked him down. The vast power had turned into a cage, and he couldn't even dodge or lift a finger. It was as if he had been cast with a spell. He watched in horror as the tombstone pressed down on him from above. No! The ancient bell bore the brunt of the attack. It was pressed down by the tombstone. There was a loud cracking sound, and countless terrifying spiderweb-like cracks appeared on the bell's body. Then, the cracks spread to the entire ancient bell. With a bang, the ancient bell shattered into countless fragments that flew in all directions. Even the green bead on the bell flew a few hundred feet away and fell to the ground. However, it did not shatter. In an emergency, Ku Rong took out a bowl and placed it on his head. A layer of dense light emitted from the bowl and covered his entire body. Bang! With a loud bang, the tombstone came crashing down like a hot knife through butter. Ku Rong was smashed into the ground by the tombstone like a carrot. The ancient tombstone fell to the ground, and cracks spread out in all directions. How terrifying! What kind of tomb is this? Even a tombstone can suppress an expert like an immortal to death. There is no resistance at all. Look, when Chen Shi and the others saw this scene, they could not help but exclaim in surprise. However, the tombstone immediately flew up into the air after suppressing Ku Rong into the ground. Looking at the ground, Ku Rong was pressed into the ground. They did not know if he had been crushed into meat paste or something else, but they could not see a trace of him. On the contrary, after the tombstone flew up, the towering tomb behind the tombstone also appeared. Behind the tombstone was a mysterious and ancient tomb door that was tightly shut. There were countless mysterious seal scripts on the tomb door that were distributed in every inch of space. It's not true, Lord Ku Rong. The heavens are on my side. I will not die. The heavens are on my side. Crack! At the place where the tombstone was pressing, the ground shook, and a withered hand reached out from the ground. Then, another hand reached out and kept digging at the soil. In the blink of an eye, blood spurted out from all over Ku Rong's body like spring water. Countless wounds appeared on every inch of his body. He looked extremely miserable. Blood kept spurting out of his mouth, and there were pieces of flesh in the blood. There was a strange bowl on his head, and there were large cracks on it. Bang! The tombstone fell again and smashed Ku Rong into the ground again. When the tombstone flew up into the air again, a bone claw that revealed white bones rose from the ground again. After a few scratches, a skeleton wobbled out from the ground. There were still traces of blood on the bones. Of the two eyes, one of them had already exploded. I won't die. I have great luck. How can I die? Ku Rong was only left with a skeleton, but he was still alive. He squeaked and looked at the tombstone as if the heavens were on his side. Hit me again, and I can climb out again. F***ck. This guy was more stubborn than a cockroach. Rumble! However, this time, the tombstone did not fall down again. Instead, the position of the tomb shook violently, and the door of the tomb suddenly opened. Behind the door was darkness, which was abnormally deep. It emitted a strong suction force that fell on Ku Rong, wrapping him up and pulling him into the tomb. No! The speed was extremely fast, and Ku Rong did not have any chance to react. He was instantly sucked into the tomb, and the only thing that remained in the air was a roar of unwillingness. After he was sucked in, the tomb door slammed down again with a loud bang, and the tomb was sealed once again. Everything was as usual, as if the previous incident had never happened. The tombstone in the air fell back to its original position, blocking the tomb and covering everything behind it as if it had existed since ancient times and had never changed. As usual, it was simple and mysterious, and there was a cloud of cold air surrounding it. Swoosh! Just as the tombstone fell back to its original position, in the distance, a rolling Huang Quan river crossed the boundary between heaven and earth and instantly appeared above the myriad demon valley. At the same time, the divine light dissipated, and the figure of the Huang Quan river also disappeared. True Lord Ku Rong, if you really have the guts, come at me, Di Shirtian. What's the point of bullying the weak? The divine light dissipated, and two figures descended from the sky. A roar spread out in all directions like a tide. Di Shirtian's eyes swept across the valley like lightning. Another week has passed. I hope that everyone can vote for me when you're reading the book. To be continued. If you want to know what's going to happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author and support the legal reading. Chapter 461. The valley was in a mess. The pagoda that stood in the valley was smashed into pieces, and the various buildings that were originally built were also smashed into pieces. The formation map was broken, and the kings and emperors inside were all killed. Although the formation map was not completely destroyed, the kings and emperors could slowly recover with time. However, they could not be of much use in a short period of time. When the group of monsters retreated, the valley was also in a mess. The traces of a battle were shocking. All of this, in Di Shirtian's eyes, caused an increasingly violent fury to rise in his heart. It could not be suppressed as it flashed in his eyes. Perfected Lord Ku Rong? He clenched his fists tightly and his face was extremely cold without any other expression. He scanned the surroundings inch by inch coldly. Forbidden area, there are fluctuations of a battle in the forbidden area. Di Shirtian suddenly looked in the direction of the forbidden area and felt a trace of aftershock. However, he did not use his mind to check. No matter what superpowers or mind, they would be ineffective when they were close to the forbidden area. If he did not go there personally, he would not know what was going on inside. What forbidden area? Medusa asked in confusion. Obviously, she did not know that there was a forbidden area here. However, Sakura obviously didn't have the time to answer her now. His figure swept forward like lightning and quickly rushed into the forbidden grounds. Once he entered the forbidden grounds, the scene that appeared in front of him couldn't help but make his figure strangely stop in midair as he looked in front of him with some surprise. In front of him, Chun Shi, the Black Ape King, Chihua, and the hundreds of thousands of demons appeared in front of him in an instant. There was not a single trace of injury on their bodies, nor was there a single wound. Xiao Bai was also lying in Chun Shi's arms. It was as if everything in front of him was completely out of his expectations. He originally thought that he would see rivers of blood and corpses everywhere. Even he was unable to react to this sudden change in attitude. It was simply too unexpected. Your subordinate respectfully welcomes the return of our king. When Chihua and the others saw Di Shirtian walking on the vast Huangquan, they were overjoyed. They knelt down in unison and shouted loudly, "Welcome back, my king!" Hundreds of thousands of demons shouted in unison, almost like a landslide and a tsunami. The loud cheers soared into the sky. When the little demons saw the figure of Sakura standing in midair, the reverence in their eyes was almost clearly visible. "Big brother, Xiao Bai misses big brother." Xiao Bai happily jumped out of Chun Shi's arms and pounced towards Di Shirtian. With a whoosh, she landed in his arms and rubbed her head against his chest. She stared at him without blinking, using her unique method to express her longing for him. Big brother also thinks about Xiao Bai every day. Looking at Xiao Bai, the softest part of her heart could not help but be touched. She gently stroked Xiao Bai's head and said softly, "Everyone, please get up." At the same time, he turned to look at the demons. The cultivation of the demons had greatly improved compared to before. It was obvious that they did not waste their time. "Thank you, my king." After Chihua and the others thanked him, they stood up as well. Where is perfected Lord Ku Rong?" Di Shirtian landed and came to Chun Shi's side. He asked softly, "I got the news that perfected Lord Ku Rong is going to attack the southern barbarians, so I immediately rushed back. Looking at the situation in the valley, Ku Rong should be here already. But..." He looked around and saw that everything was withered. It seemed to be caused by a fierce battle. On the ground there was a huge iceberg that was sealed in ice. He was not unfamiliar with this iceberg. If he was not mistaken, it must have been caused by the cold air that burst out from the tombstone. Back then, he almost died because of this cold air. He had a deep impression of it. Tomb of the God of Sin, this is an ancient tomb of the God of Sin. How could there be an ancient tomb of the God of Sin in the southern barbarians? Chun Shi hadn't even finished speaking when Ming had let out a wave of resounding exclamations of shock in Chun Shi's mind. Her voice carried shock and disbelief, as if she'd seen the most unbelievable thing in the world. Tomb of the God of Sin? What ancient tomb of the God of Sin? Sakura keenly sensed something unusual. With the identity of Dark in this world, if it could make him make such a fuss and cry out uncontrollably, then the matter must not be simple. It must not be simple at all. Otherwise, it wouldn't be like this. My ancestor, how is this possible? There is actually an ancient tomb of the God of Sin here. I remember that there were only 3 ancient tombs of the god of sin in the ancient times, and they helped 3 peerless experts achieve their goals. It is said that there are a total of 9 ancient tombs of the god of sin. Could this be one of the remaining 6? I can't believe it's here. My ancestor, even my heart is about to jump out. In the nether prison, Dark covered its heart with its dragon claws, looking extremely excited. Its 2 dragon eyes were staring at the tombstone, and its eyeballs almost popped out. Ku Rong was swallowed by this tomb. On the other side, she saw Di Shirtian. Although there was a touch of uncontrollable joy in his eyes, he suppressed it and briefly told him what had happened. However, when he talked about the scene when true Lord Ku Rong fought with the tombstone, he could not hide his shock. He glanced at the tombstone. There is indeed something wrong with this tombstone and tomb. As expected, this isn't an ordinary tomb. Divine tomb. Could this be the ancient god ink that Ming mentioned? However, what is an ancient god tomb? Sakra's heart was similarly filled with shock. Lunatic D, you are indeed blessed with great fortune. You have the mandate of heaven. The strength of your luck is simply unstoppable. There is an ancient divine tomb in this valley of yours. Could it be that the heavens want you to set foot on the peak and become an unparalleled expert, an immortal existence? This kind of luck, TSK, even my master, the Emperor of the Underworld, did not have it. If you can become the owner of the ancient divine tomb, you will immediately be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with the unparalleled experts and become immortal. Moreover, you will be an invincible expert among the experts. Dark roared somewhat incoherently. His whole body kept dancing in the nether prison, and the roar shook the nether prison violently. What exactly is this ancient tomb of the gods? Sakra asked with even more anticipation. He vaguely felt that there must be a shocking secret in this ancient divine tomb. It could actually make someone become an existence comparable to the unparalleled expert. How incredible was this? If word got out, it would definitely make the whole world go crazy. I don't know. To Di Shirtian's anticipation, Dark spat out a sentence that almost made him vomit blood. This sentence almost made him jump up. How can you not know? Since you don't know, why did you say that the ancient divine tomb is so magical? Di Shirtian shouted angrily. I really don't know. Not only me, but my master and the other unparalleled experts in the ancient times also don't know. There are definitely no more than 3 who know, Dark said with some regret. Ming spoke with slight regret. However, it didn't conceal his deep respect for the godly tomb at all. It was even reverence. 3? You said that there are 9 ancient divine tombs. 3 of them appeared in the ancient times and already had owners. Could it be that the 3 people you are talking about are the owners of the 3 divine tombs? Sakra's mind turned and he immediately came to a realization. After thinking for a while, he immediately thought of the key point and asked, I wonder which 3 people became the owners of the ancient divine tombs in the ancient times. TSK, they are very famous. Each of them was a peerless genius in the ancient times. You've even heard of one of them. Even now, they are the master of fate, the god of fate. You've even seen his successor, Tai Xian. The Book of Fate and the Scale of Fate were the treasures that the Master of Fate carried with him in the past. He was a terrifying existence who could even control fate. In ancient times, it was unknown how many peerless powerhouses had besieged him, and it was unknown how many powerhouses had died in order to kill him. It was too terrifying. He could even control fate and control the river of fate. In the ancient times, some people suspected that he didn't really die, but he never appeared again. How could he not die after being besieged by so many unparalleled experts? Di Shirtian felt terrified just thinking about it. It was hard to imagine what kind of inconceivable cultivation base the Master of Fate had. He sighed inwardly, amazing. What about the other 2? Then there's the Demon Master, the demon among demons, the ancestor of all demons. Howling through the heavens and earth, demons danced in chaos. With his demonic arts, even the master of fate couldn't control his fate. The two fought over 100 times, but there was no clear victor. He was also an invincible figure who reigned above the unparalleled experts. Dark spoke as if he was very familiar with them. The last one is the Space Master. He was also an immortal who wasn't inferior to the first two. And they all had one thing in common, which was that they all obtained a divine tomb. After becoming the owner of the divine tomb, they advanced by leaps and bounds, grasping inestimably powerful divine abilities at an unimaginable speed. They became unparalleled experts who reigned above the heavens. So, in the ancient times, people speculated that the reason they could reach such heights was because they had an inseparable connection to the divine tomb. Unfortunately, no one except the three of them knew what kind of secret the divine tomb held. At that time, countless experts madly searched for other divine tombs. There was a rumor that the one who obtained the divine tomb was immortal. Even with de Chertien's temperament, his eyes couldn't help but widen after hearing this. He stared blankly at the tombstone in front of him and said with some shock, You mean, this is the legendary ancient divine tomb? The one who obtained the divine tomb was immortal? No words could describe his feelings at this moment. If the rumor was true, then the divine tomb that even unparalleled experts coveted was right in front of him. Perhaps if he took a few more steps forward, he could reach the heavens in a single bound and become immortal, reigning above the unparalleled experts. Temptation? Yes, this was indeed a temptation that no one could resist. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidien.com. There are more chapters. Support the author and support the original reading. Chapter 462. Ascending to Heaven in a Single Step. What was ascending to heaven in a single step? At this moment, whoever could seize the tomb of the god of sin and become its owner was destined to become an immortal supreme existence. This temptation could no longer be described with words. The tomb of the god of sin that even peerless experts would go crazy for was now placed in front of de Chertien. Even if he had a strong will, under the test of the illusion of desire, he had long been so tenacious that nothing could shake the temptation. At this moment, he could not help but have the urge to seize the tomb of the god of sin for himself and recklessly rush into the tomb behind the tombstone. This could not be blamed on him. The temptation of immortality was so great that all experts in the world would abandon everything for it. Even moths flying into a flame could not extinguish the boundless desire in their hearts. The tomb of the god of sin is not something you can touch now. Legend has it that the tomb of the god of sin will choose its owner. Moreover, there is a tablet in front of every tomb of the god of sin. It is said that this tablet is used to guard the tomb of the god of sin. Just this tablet alone is not inferior to any innate spirit treasure. There are some seal scripts imprinted on the tablet, which often describe a mysterious prophecy. Dark unceremoniously poured cold water on de Chertien's head. With your current strength, you may be comparable to an ancient monster king with the mask of the ultimate emperor realm, but the tombstone can easily crush you to death. You can't even pass the tablet, let alone the tomb of the god of sin behind it. If you act rashly and touch the tombstone, you will be in big trouble. Although the tomb of the god of sin is good, it is not something you can touch now. He was afraid that de Chertien would not be able to resist the temptation and rashly go down and cause some accident, so he hurriedly advised him against it. He knew that in ancient times, a tombstone in front of a tomb of the god of sin had directly crushed an ancient giant to death. As long as the tombstone did not come within a certain range, there would not be any danger. Once he recklessly attacked the tombstone, tsk, he would end up like Ku Rong. He would be crushed alive. Huff! He let out a long breath, as if he wanted to expel the desire that kept emerging in his heart. His eyes slowly regained their clarity, and he sighed, "What a great tomb of the god of sin! This temptation is so great that even I almost couldn't resist it." After a short pause, he continued, "Ming, can you tell if this divine tomb of the gods in front of us has an owner?" "I can't." How the godly tombs came to be was a matter of debate among countless experts in ancient times. Some people suspected that there had been an even more glorious era before the Wildlands, and that the godly tombs were relics left behind by those people, treasures left behind for their descendants. I don't know much about the ancient tomb of the gods. Even Ming was willing to admit that she wasn't aware of this. "Shirtian, what happened to you?" While he was deep in thought, a soft voice rang in his ears, waking him up. He turned his head and saw Chen Shi looking at him with a puzzled expression. He fell into deep thought as soon as he heard what Ming said. After all, only he and Ming could hear the conversation between them. Di Shirtian looked at Chen Shi with a gentle smile on his face, and naturally reached out to hold her soft, jade-like hand. When Chen Shi saw this, her delicate body trembled slightly, and she instinctively wanted to avoid it. However, she stopped after a slight movement and allowed him to hold her soft hand. A strange feeling flashed in her heart, and her crystal-like earlobes unconsciously turned vermilion red, and a trace of shyness flashed in her eyes. During this period, Di Shirtian's figure would appear in her heart from time to time, and a trace of affection had already appeared in her heart. This time, when she saw Di Shirtian, she didn't resist like before. Instead, she felt shy. Di Shirtian felt the change in Chen Shi, and a trace of a smile flashed across his heart. He understood what she meant, but he didn't pay much attention to it. He naturally held her hand, looked at the tomb of the gods, and the hundreds of thousands of demons around them, and said, "I was thinking about something just now, but it's okay now." After giving her a reassuring look, he flew into the air and said to the demons in a dignified manner, "This is the forbidden area of the Myriad Demons Valley. I've said earlier that those who trespass will be killed without mercy." When the last 3 words came out, a gust of cold air suddenly appeared in the air, and directly blew into the bodies of the demons. They couldn't help but kneel down in fear. However, just as the demons were feeling hopeless, Di Shirtian changed his tone and continued, "This time, there was a reason. A strong enemy broke the border, and we had no choice but to enter the forbidden area to hide. This time, I won't pursue the trespassing of the forbidden area for the time being. However, it won't happen again, and there won't be a next time. Thank you for your magnanimity, your majesty, for pardoning our crimes." When Chi Hua and the others heard this, their faces were full of respect and gratitude, and their loyalty to Di Shirtian became even more unshakable. Di Shirtian waved his long sleeve, and the demons withdrew from the forbidden area in an orderly manner. Although there were more than 100,000 of them, there was not much chaos. Obviously, this was the result of Chi Hua and the others' continuous training and discipline. In his opinion, this was already quite good. After all, it was still a short time, so he couldn't ask for too much. In the valley, under the waterfall, Di Shirtian and Chen Shi walked side by side, walking forward. Although they didn't speak when they looked at each other, a faint warmth began to naturally spread around them. Yes. When I was crossing the desire state, it was thanks to you that I was able to break through the desire state at the last moment, transcend the desire, and step into the 3rd transformation of the Yaodan. Di Shirtian stopped and looked seriously into Chen Shi's eyes. That touch of gratitude was indeed from the bottom of his heart. Even now, thinking about the scene in the desire state, he felt scared. Cold sweat dripped down his body. He was only 1 step away from entering the state of eternal damnation. Chen Shi smiled and shook his head, saying, "Shirtian, who am I in your heart?" "Wife." Di Shirtian said without hesitation. "Since I'm your wife, you're my husband. There's no need for thanks between husband and wife." Chen Shi looked quietly at Di Shirtian, a touch of shyness on his face, But he didn't dodge and said seriously, "But, when you do anything, I hope you can think of me and shall buy." When Di Shirtian heard this, he couldn't suppress a kind of ecstasy in his heart. Only today, he truly felt that each other's shadow was in their hearts. This kind of affection was simply not there in the past. Nodding, he said, "This time I'm back, I won't be leaving for a short time. It's time to start the construction of the Demon City." As he said that, he paused, looked directly into Chen-Shi's eyes, and said seriously, "I plan to wait until the Demon City is built. That will be the day we get married. At that time, I want to give you an incomparably grand wedding." In his words there was incomparable conviction. This was a kind of promise, a promise that came from the bottom of his heart. He owed Chen-Shi a lot, and the only thing he could give him was a grand wedding that was worth a lifetime of remembrance. This was also what he had wanted to do for a long time. Unconsciously, Chen-Shi felt that the softest part of his heart was touched by something, and the feelings in his heart were even stronger. He seemed to be a little shy and even at a loss. He quickly changed the topic and asked, "You once said about the Demon City back then, but according to your idea back then, the resources needed to build it are inestimable. To make the entire ancient city fly in the air, this is not something that can be done by ordinary means. There are also other things. If you can't solve them if you want to build it, I'm afraid." He didn't continue, but the meaning was quite obvious. Indeed, no matter from which point of view, with the current strength of the Demon Valley, it was impossible to talk about how to build such an ancient city. Take a look at this jade slip." Di Shirtian smiled confidently again, took out a jade slip, and handed it to Chen-Shi. Chen-Shi took it doubtfully and probed the jade slip with his demon awareness. Suddenly, he saw that her face changed continuously like a kaleidoscope. The speed was so fast that it was unbelievable. Di Shirtian didn't disturb her, but just stood quietly aside, looking at Chen-Shi's perfect and flawless face. Not only did his face become much gentler, but it was also not as cold as usual. After a while, Chen-Shi withdrew her demon awareness from the jade slip and lifted her head in shock. She said in disbelief, Could it be that what is recorded in this jade slip is the demon city that you intend to build?" What was imprinted in the jade slip was Di Shirtian's idea of the demon city, as well as the blueprint of the unparalleled divine city obtained from the Tianji Wanshu diagram. The vast project, the majesty of the city above all cities, and the majestic blueprint of the demon city, with the 4 heavenly gates as the city walls to guard the 4 directions, with the cloud-gathering banner to gather the clouds to form the ancient city, and so on. In the eyes of anyone, it was inconceivable that all of it would be condensed in an ancient city. Even though Chen-Shi had inherited the memories of the Fairy of 100 Flowers, he was still shocked by the inconceivable idea. He couldn't even think straight. Innate spiritual treasures were unimaginably precious in ancient times. They were so rare that they were pathetically used to build an ancient city. If someone else had said this to her, she would have thrown him thousands of miles away on the spot. This was simply a crazy idea. Inconceivable, really inconceivable. Whoosh! With a wave of his long sleeves, Sakra's body naturally overflowed with a kind of natural king's aura. He said in a deep voice, "That's right. Sakra will either not build it or build it at all. Moreover, I've already found the materials that don't belong to the 5 elements and can begin construction immediately. They will be the cornerstone of the demon city." Light flashed in his hand, and within the rainbow light, a seemingly alive, heart-like exquisite 7 orifices kettle appeared. The kettle was still pulsing and swallowing the power of heaven and earth. Within the kettle was a divine flame that would never be extinguished. This is the exquisite 7 orifices kettle, the divine kettle I told you about years ago that can refine divine crystals. With it, we can continuously refine large amounts of divine crystals. Di Shirtian pulled Chen-Shi's hand and walked into the pavilion above the pool. He sat down and wrapped his arm around her slender waist, letting her lean on his shoulder as he spoke of his various plans and ideas. She also listened quietly, like a virtuous wife. In her eyes there were traces of splendor, and she couldn't help but be lost in reverie along with Sakra's thoughts. After a long while, she said, "Husband, if it's as you said, the divine crystal is formed from all kinds of materials in the world, and the power of faith from incense. You've already become a totem in a large dynasty in the secular human world, and you have countless believers. Moreover, Hua Nation is constantly expanding its territory, and with the accumulation from before, the power of faith from incense will be endless, and there will be no shortage of it. However, the other spirit ores and materials will be a difficult task." "That's right." Di Shirtian nodded and said in a low voice, "The most important thing for me to come back this time is to arrange this matter. It will be extremely difficult to obtain large amounts of spiritual materials and spiritual ores with other method. I've thought about it. The southern barbarian lands are the foundation, so we can't excavate here. However, there are large areas of mountains and forests around the southern barbarian lands, and there are no signs of human habitation for hundreds of thousands of miles. There will be no shortage of natural resources. Our demon race has never really excavated." He had a plan long ago. In fact, on the purple gold land, there were large areas of primitive areas that were rarely visited by human habitation. The demon race also rarely excavated various kinds of mineral veins. This was the origin land, and the origin land was connected to the void chaotic world. The chaotic chi would always flow into the origin land, and this chaotic chi would turn into a large amount of spiritual chi and enter the origin land to form various mineral veins. In ancient times, the spiritual chi transformed from chaotic chi was already many times stronger and richer than now. The spiritual chi at that time was innate spiritual chi, not the acquired spiritual chi of today. Unfortunately, due to the birth of the heaven realm, the demon realm, and even countless small thousand worlds, the spiritual chi of the origin land was thinned out, causing the purple gold land to become what it was today. It could be said that every small thousand world would make the spiritual chi of the origin land thinner. It was difficult to distinguish whether it was a benefit or a disadvantage. However, it could still allow the mineral veins on the origin land to be regenerated after they were excavated. It might take a long time, but it would not dry up. The southern barbarian lands could not be excavated, but they could be excavated near the southern barbarian lands. The 4 heavenly gates could not be plotted now, but the foundation of the ancient city could start to be built. Then, he would use the power of the stars to refine the divine crystals into one and smelt them together. As the relationship between Di Shirtian and she deepened day by day. Half a month flashed by in an extremely short period of time. In the valley, the destroyed buildings had all been cleaned up, and some had been rebuilt. However, the Inch-een Tower had not been rebuilt. Di Shirtian had plans for all of this. At this moment, in a large open space in the valley, more than 100,000 demons were lined up neatly. The myriad demon valley was very big, so big that it could accommodate millions of demons. At this moment, this open space only occupied a small area. Di Shirtian held Shi's hand and stood in midair. In front of him, the backbone of the valley was all standing at the front. Chihua, Baiwei, Bai Susu, Inkong, and Yuan Tian. These 5 generals who had followed Di Shirtian since the beginning were all transformed demons who had condensed their inner cores. Then there was the Black Ape King and the Red-Crowned Crane King. They had already transformed their demon cores. Then there was the Rat King, Ratda. The little rat from back then had also obtained great benefits at this moment and had already transformed. However, his figure was much shorter, and the 2 mustaches by his mouth made him look extremely wretched. His bean-sized rat eyes rolled around in a disorderly manner. All these years, he could be considered loyal and devoted. Today, the backbone of the valley and even the demons were all gathered together. Naturally, it was not for fun. Tian and Chen, she looked at each other and nodded slightly. With a wave of their hand, a pagoda suddenly appeared in front of them. The pagoda had 9 floors, and it was the exquisite creation pagoda. Open! Under the gazes of the demons, the exquisite creation pagoda flew into the air. In the blink of an eye, it became incomparably huge. After a soft shout, a huge crack appeared at the bottom of the pagoda. The crack turned into a vortex that kept spinning. Following that, a scene that left the group of demons dumbstruck appeared. Large batches of demons gushed out of the whirlpool like tidal waves. After coming out of the whirlpool, they stood in an orderly manner on the open ground and gathered neatly. Each and every one of them was a demon who had condensed an inner core. Under the continuous spitting, more than 3 million demons were sent out of the vortex in less than an hour. Among them, there were at least 1 million demons who had condensed their inner cores. The rest were also in the realm of demonic beasts. They were not too far away from condensing their inner cores. The aura emitted from their bodies gathered together, causing the air in the valley to start to condense. What a strong aura! Could this be the group of demons that the king brought out from the mystic realm? Any one of them has a cultivation base that has condensed their inner cores. This is great. With them around, the king's strength will definitely increase greatly. When Qihua saw the new 1,000,000 demons, he was shocked but also happy for the king. With them around, the king's strength would instantly increase by several levels. Of course, he was also shocked. He secretly made up his mind to work harder in his cultivation in the future. He could not embarrass the king. If he could not even compare to ordinary demons, how could he work for the king and convince the masses? Looking at each other, Baiwe and the rest saw the same determination in each other's eyes. The sudden appearance of the demons made them feel a strong sense of danger and urgency. Greetings, my king. When there were no more demons in the pagoda, the 1,000,000 demons in the valley bowed to Tian under the leadership of Hu and the other leaders. Everyone shouted in unison, and even the clouds in the sky were shaken away by the roar. Faint circles of ripples appeared in the air. Everyone rise. Tian was imposing without being angry. With a wave of his long sleeve, he ordered the demons to rise. At the same time, he looked around at the demons. There was endless majesty in his eyes. Everyone who met his eyes could not help but lower their heads. Even Hu, Jin Xian, and the other leaders also bowed respectfully. You all respect me as your king. That means you are a member of the Myriad Demon Valley. I will treat you all equally. I will be impartial. Today, I will take this opportunity to reorganize the positions. I will establish the various positions of the Myriad Demon Valley. The internet is down today. I'm writing in the internet cafe. Sorry. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 463. Long ago, Tian had already informed both the Myriad Demon Valley and the demon clan of the Secret Realm about the existence of this place. Therefore, although Qihua and the others were shocked, they were not too surprised. After all, they all respected Tian as their king. In the future, they would all be brothers and clansmen. Of course, to be honest, it was definitely the old subordinates of the Myriad Demon Valley who held a higher position in Tian's heart. Hu and the others all understood this in their hearts. They looked at Qihua and the others with friendly eyes, hoping to shorten the distance between them. In the future, they could live in harmony and follow the king together. When they heard Tian say that he was going to reassign their duties, the group of demons responded at the same time, "We obey the king's order." The sound shook the southern barbarian and deterred the group of beasts. Rumble! There was a violent tremor in the void, and visible distortions could be seen clearly. A crystal-clear throne stood proudly. There were mysterious seal scripts on the crystal throne, and it seemed to be connected to countless thin lines in the void, extending to an unknown place. There were all kinds of images in the surroundings, and they were pictures of the Tiger King in the divine form. Tigers leaped over the mountain stream, tigers roared in the forest. All kinds of tiger drawings were vivid and lifelike on the throne. It seemed that when one looked at it, one could hear the tiger roars full of domineering auras. On the armrests on both sides, there was an awe-inspiring divine tiger. One could hold the tiger's head with one's palm. The divine tiger's eyes seemed to contain an indescribable majesty. Under their gaze, one's heart would first tremble, and one's mind would be unconsciously attracted by it, surrendering one's heart. The quaint tiger pattern on the throne was constantly rippling like waves. Since its appearance, it had immediately become the focus of all the demons in the myriad demon valley, and even their minds were captured. It was as if that was the supreme throne of heaven and earth. Sitting on it, one could immediately become an unparalleled emperor. Nobility, mystery, and imperial aura were all condensed in this throne. Let's go up. When Di Shirtion saw the throne appear, he smiled gently at Shi beside him. He held her hand and walked towards the crystal throne under the gazes of thousands of demons. Stepping into the void, it was as though there was an invisible staircase beneath his feet, allowing him to ascend step by step. Ripples appeared under his feet. In the valley, not a single sound could be heard. Everyone held their breaths as their gazes followed their movements. They were only about 100 paces away from the throne, but to the demonic cultivators, each step was like stepping on their own hearts. Their hearts thumped, and the blood in their bodies surged and boiled. Their eyes were glued to the throne, as if they were anticipating something. When Di Shirtion and Shi walked up to the throne hand in hand and sat on it, they were shocked. A tsunami of cheers soared into the sky. King of all demons, demon king, demon empress. The deafening cheers seemed to even break the sky. A fanatical look appeared in the eyes of the demonic cultivators at the same time, and they roared without restraint. The demonic cultivators who knew about Di Shirtion's deeds had a strong sense of admiration and respect. The moment Di Shirtion sat on the throne, a majestic aura of a king gushed out like a tidal wave. It was even more majestic under the backdrop of the crystal throne. At this moment, he was the ruler of this world, the emperor. All the people in the world were his subjects, and all the land was his territory. The power of life and death was in his hand. At this moment, Di Shirtion had officially ascended to the throne of King of all demons. Sitting on the crystal throne and looking down, a sense of ambition and heroism reverberated in his chest. An unprecedented sense of confidence appeared in his body. I've already become the king of all demons. It's only a matter of time before I become the king of all demons and the emperor of all demons. He stretched out his hands and pressed down slightly. Even the entire sky seemed to be descending under this pressure. The cheers of the crowd of demons immediately stopped, and the thunderous cheers turned into silence. The sudden change of movement and stillness seemed to be a little strange. The air was solemn. Many pairs of eyes fell on Di Shirtion. I am Thousand Goblin King. Sakura naturally spat out this sentence. King, king, king. The thunderous cheers in the valley echoed. Di Shirtion gestured slightly to stop the cheers. After that, he said, since I'm the king, there should be laws in the valley. Everyone, do your duty. Today, millions of demons have gathered, and it's also the time to seal the demons. Every word and action of his was like the descent of the heavenly Tao. His majestic voice naturally reached the ears of the demonic cultivators. At this moment, the demonic cultivators were all listening attentively. Especially when he talked about sealing the demons, Qihua, and even Jin Xian's eyes lit up. They all understood that the sealing of demons this time was to completely plan out the future structure of the myriad demon valley and the various positions. Their future positions would be revealed today. All of them held their breath. Even the lesser demons were no exception, especially the demons that came out of the secret territory. They were all differentiated by their clan, and of course, they hoped that their clan leader could seize a higher position and have a higher and more important position in the heart of the king. I want to create 4 major armies. I'll name them the First Army, Second Army, Third Army, and Fourth Army. In each army, the highest position is the commander. Under the commander, there will be 2 deputy commanders. Under the commander, there will be a general. There are a total of 9 grades. The first grade is the highest, and the 9th grade is the lowest. Under the general, there will be a captain. Under the captain, there will be a sergeant. After the sergeant, there will be soldiers. 5 demonic soldiers will be a sergeant. 5 sergeants will be a sergeant. A 9th grade demon general will be in charge of 10 sergeants. For every grade up, there will be 10 sergeants under his command. The total number of soldiers in each army will be 300,000. The minimum requirement to enter the army is to transform and condense a demonic core. A 9th grade demon general will be at least a first transformation demonic core. D. Shirtion explained the 4 major armies. Each army would have 300,000 soldiers. In total, there would be a total of 1,200,000 demonic cultivators. This number was not difficult to calculate, but the key was the qualification to enter the army. To the current demonic cultivators, the threshold was very high. Demonic cultivators who had condensed a demonic core. Heavens! If D. Shirtion had not brought over 1 million demonic cultivators from the secret realm, they would not be able to gather even one army even if they searched the entire purple gold mainland. Demon generals were divided into 9 grades. Among them, the 9th grade would be at least a first transformation demonic core. The first grade demon general would be at least a 9th transformation demonic core expert. From the first transformation to the 3rd transformation, one would be a demon king, from the 4th transformation to the 6th transformation, and from the 7th transformation to the 9th transformation, one would be a great demon. In that case, above the first grade demon general was the commander. Wouldn't it mean that one had to be at least a demon saint to be qualified for the position? Just thinking about it made Qi Hua, Jin Xian, and the others look at each other. They were a little shocked. If that was really the case, none of them would be able to hold these positions. Qi Hua, hear me. Di Shirtion looked at Qi Hua and said in a deep voice. Your subordinate is here. Qi Hua suppressed the shock in his heart and hurriedly walked out of the ranks respectfully. He knelt down and bowed to Di Shirtion and Chen Shi, who were sitting high on the throne. Qi Hua, you have followed this king since the beginning. You have been taking care of the matters in the valley. You have always been loyal and devoted. You have also been diligent in your cultivation. You have already formed a demonic core and can transform. I will make an exception and bestow you with the position of temporary commander of the First Army. You will receive the salary of a 9th grade demon general. Every month, you will receive a 9th grade demon general salary of 1,000 demon coins. Temporary commander's salary of 3,000 demon coins. You will receive a salary of 500 demon coins for your team leader, 300 demon coins for your team leader, and 100 demon coins for your team leader. Bestowment, Commander's Seal, Azure Dragon Battle Flag. Azure Dragon Battle Formation. Of course, Sakura knew that in the current valley, not to mention the demon saint of the commander level, there were not many who could reach the 9th grade demon general level. Naturally, they couldn't rigidly follow the rules. The commander of the legion would be assumed in a temporary way. One day, when they really had the cultivation to be qualified to be the commander, they would be able to be the real commander, removing the prefix of temporary. As for demon coins, Di Shirtion had already decided to replace the merit points that he had used in the past with demon coins. The demon coins would be made from divine crystals. After casting divine crystals into demon coins, a secret technique would be applied to the demon coins. It would become an object that could not be used by others or even refined into magic treasures. With the toughness of divine crystals, even immortals would find it hard to destroy it. It was most suitable to be used as a currency. The shape of the currency was like gold or silver coins. Another demon card. The demon cards were divided into different denominations: 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1,000,000, 10,000,000, 100,000,000. The numbers on the surface of these demon cards represented the amount of demon coins, just like the banknotes in his previous life. The lowest denomination was 1,000, and the highest was 100,000,000. It was easy to carry and circulate. They were all made from divine crystals. Except for Chertion, no one could copy them. The uniqueness was enough proof. Thank you, King, for your kindness. Chihua will protect my myriad demon valley with his life. Chihua was overjoyed. He quickly kowtowed. His head hit the ground, and his red hair danced in the wind like a ball of fire. He stretched out his hands. From the sky, a crystal-like azure dragon seal fell into his left hand, and an azure dragon war flag with an azure dragon claw imprint fell into his right hand. There was also an immortal scroll with an azure dragon image. He respectfully held it in his hand. Long Yu and Shui Ling will be the deputy commanders of the First Legion, assisting Chihua in managing the Legion. They will receive a 9th-grade demon general salary of 1,000 demon coins and a deputy commander salary of 2,000 demon coins. Chertion spoke again. Immediately, the patriarch of the Dragon Horse clan, Long Yu, and the patriarch of the Dragon Snake clan, Shui Ling stepped out at the same time and respectfully accepted the order. Then, they stood behind Chihua. They were the backbone of the First Legion. Eagle Kong, listen to the order. Chertion did not hesitate and began to appoint again. This time, he wanted to lay out the framework of the future positions at once, to form a complete system. Only when the system was complete could it display an incomparably strong cohesion and erupt an even more powerful force. Each position must be completely divided. He wanted to completely integrate the myriad demon valley and operate it like an empire in the secular world. Subordinate is here. The appearance of Eagle Kong's transformation was also quite special. The most obvious aquiline nose, slender body, and 2 sharp eyes, flashing a trace of sharpness. It was extremely sharp. The division of the various departments in the myriad demon valley has officially begun. Brothers, if you have any good suggestions, please write them in the book review section. There will be more to come later. I've been trying to absorb good suggestions. Chapter 464. Ing Kong, you have also followed me since the beginning. You have been loyal and devoted to guarding the myriad demon valley. Today, you will be in charge of the Second Legion and temporarily take the position of commander. You will receive the salary of a 9th-grade demon general. Every month, you will receive a rank 9 demon general salary of 1,000 demon coins. Temporary commander's salary will be 3,000 demon coins. Captain's salary will be 500 demon coins. Sergeant's salary will be 300 demon coins. And demon soldier's salary will be 100 demon coins. Sakura looked at Ing Kong cautiously. He had never been stingy with these subordinates who had followed him before. What's more, they were all extremely diligent. They had never slacked off in their cultivation. That was why they could achieve what they had today. He believed that as long as he gave them a chance, they would become his right-hand men in the future. Reward: Commander's Seal, Vermilion Bird War Flag, Vermilion Bird Battle Formation. Thank you, my king. Ing Kong was so excited that his body trembled slightly. He quickly thanked Chertion respectfully. He stretched out his hands and a palm-sized Vermilion Bird Seal, Vermilion Bird War Flag, and the immortal scroll that recorded the Vermilion Bird Battle Formation fell into his hands. The Vermilion Bird Battle Formation was, of course, a battle formation in the army. It was a kind of formation, and the most wonderful one, because this kind of battle formation was only suitable for the army to use in battle. It gathered all the strength of the army together and condensed the vermilion bird. The stronger the army was, the more powerful the battle formation would be. The difference between having a battle formation and not having one was like the difference between heaven and earth. A battle formation was indispensable to every legion. It was also the most important way to condense. Reward: Jean Chien and Peacock are temporary deputy commanders of the 2nd Legion. They will assist Ing Kong in managing the Legion. They will receive a rank 9 demon general salary of 1,000 demon coins and a temporary deputy commander's salary of 2,000 demon coins. Sakura once again opened his mouth to confer a title, and once again appointed the clan leaders of the various clans who came out of the mystic realm as the deputy commander. This method was extremely obvious. He wanted to mix the original demon clans in the valley with the new group of demons. There would be no more demon clans in the secret realm. There would only be the demon clans in the myriad demon valley. We obey the king's order. Jean Chien and Peacock both agreed respectfully. After witnessing Di Shirtian's tyrannical strength, they no longer had the slightest resistance towards him being their king. After receiving the title, he went to stand behind Ing Kong. He quietly watched the next conferment. Yuan Zhan, heed my command. A burly man the size of a small mountain walked forward with a wide grin on his face. He waved his palms, which were as big as cattail leaves, and respectfully kowtowed to Di Shirtian. Wait for the bestowment. This burly man was none other than the Black Ape King. After joining the Myriad Demon Valley, he was already a first transformation Yaodan expert with his talent. However, he admired Di Shirtian even more. After all these years, he had completely assimilated into it. He even named him Yuan Zhan. It was in line with his nature. Today you will be in charge of the 3rd Legion. You will temporarily assume the position of commander and receive the salary of a 9th-rank demon general. Every month, you can receive a 9th-grade demon general's salary of 1,000 demon coins. Temporary commander's salary is 3,000 demon coins. The salary of a captain is 500 demon coins, the salary of a sergeant is 300, and the salary of a demon soldier is 100. Bestowment: Commander's Seal, White Tiger War Flag, White Tiger Battle Formation. Bestowment: Shi Shi Tian and Kuei Nyo are temporary deputy commanders of the 3rd Legion. They will assist Yuan Zhan in managing the Legion. They will receive a 9th-grade demon general's salary of 1,000 demon coins and temporary deputy commander's salary of 2,000 demon coins. The 5 elements Lion Clan and Kuei Nyo Clan were both included in the 3rd Legion. Xiong Ba, heed my command. You will be in charge of the 4th Legion. Temporary commander's position: you will receive a 9th-grade demon general's salary. Every month, you will receive a 9th-grade demon general's salary of 1,000 demon coins. Temporary commander's salary is 3,000 demon coins. The salary of a captain is 500 demon coins, the salary of a sergeant is 300 demon coins, and the salary of a demon soldier is 100 demon coins. The 4th Legion's commander fell on Xiong Ba of the Bear Clan. Bestowment: Commander's Seal, Black Tortoise War Flag, Black Tortoise Battle Formation. Di Shirtian did not confer any more titles to the remaining 2 deputy commanders. Xiong Ba was the only commander. It was not that he did not confer titles, but the remaining ones were not suitable for the position of deputy commander. Hence, it was temporarily vacant. In the future, if there were more outstanding people, he would naturally continue to confer titles. Originally, according to Di Shirtian's plan, there should be a total of 5 legions: Azure Dragon, White Tiger, Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise, and Qilin. It was just nice to use the names of the 5 divine beasts to establish the legions. However, right now, 4 legions were not enough, let alone 5. It was temporarily put on hold. After conferring titles to the various legions of the demon army, Di Shirtian once again assigned other duties. Sweeping his gaze around, he said in a low voice, Yuan Tian, heed my command. Your subordinate is here. Yuan Tian had already transformed and condensed his Naiden. However, although he had transformed and looked like a human, his body and face were still full of golden monkey fur. There was not much difference from before he transformed. He jumped forward. The valley will set up a wine brewing division. You are the most proficient in brewing wine. Today, you will be in charge of the wine brewing division. The person in charge of the wine brewing division will be known as the wine chancellor. However, your cultivation has only condensed a Naiden. Hence, you will still receive a 9th-grade wine master's salary of 1,500 demon coins and a temporary wine chancellor's salary of 5,000 demon coins. Bestowal: Wine brewing pool, spirit wine recipe. Spirit wine was of great importance, comparable to the immortal cultivation world's alchemist. It was the most important type. Di Shirtian had even used the wine brewing method in the wine god's gourd as a reference to create a wine brewing pool. If this was given to Yuan Tian, brewing wine would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. As for the wine recipe, naturally, it was obtained from the wine god's treasured mirror. Although Sakra could use the wine god's gourd to brew them one by one, it was still okay to do it occasionally. He couldn't always spend all his energy on brewing wine. Letting Yuan Tian do these things was the most appropriate thing to do. Yuan Tian received the wine brewing pool and the wine recipe. The wine brewing pool could be sized as he wished. The wine recipe was also written in the immortal scroll. These were all things he liked to do the most. Naturally, he was overjoyed and kowtowed to express his thanks. He happily retreated to the side. Baiwe, set up a guard in the valley to supervise the demon guards. The Myriad Demon Valley cannot be without rules. Set a law, the Myriad Demon Codex. You will be in charge of supervising the demons in the valley. However, if anyone violates the law, you have the right to punish them. You will be bestowed the title of 9th-grade Demon General, temporarily acting as the supervisor of the demon guards. The 9th-grade Demon General's salary will be 1,000 demon coins and the supervisor's salary will be 4,000 demon coins. You will only be responsible to me. No one else has the right to interfere. Big Rat can be the deputy supervisor. Di Shirtian bestowed another reward. Without rules, nothing could be accomplished. With so many demons, if there were no laws to restrict them, there would definitely be chaos. The supervisor demon guards were almost equivalent to the imperial guards of the Ming dynasty in his previous life. They had great power. They were practically supervising the demons. In addition, Big Rat's ability to gather all kinds of information was first class. It could be said to make the best use of everything. Set up a myriad medicine garden in the valley. By Susu, you will be in charge of the Myriad Medicine Garden as the Medicine King. You will receive a 9th-grade demon coin salary of 1,000 demon coins and a Medicine King salary of 5,000 demon coins. You will be bestowed with the Shenong's Paradise Map. The great use of spiritual herbs could not be ignored. Whether it was brewing wine or doing other things, spiritual herbs were the most important. Back then, Baisusu was bestowed with the Book of Medicine, which recorded the illustrations of countless spiritual herbs. Moreover, her personality was not suitable for fighting and killing. Planting spiritual herbs was also something she liked very much. In order for the Myriad Medicine Garden to be truly established, Di Shirtian even bestowed the Shenong's Paradise Map that he had won from the Dragon Girl as the most important treasure of the Myriad Medicine Garden. Who will be bestowed with the title of Sage. He will lead all the strategists to plan for the Myriad Demon Valley. During wartime, he can follow the army as the think tank. He can give advice and suggestions. Those with great wisdom can enter. Di Shirtian continued to spit out orders. Each order could be said to have made the best use of everything. Each of their functions were planned out one by one. Suddenly, a rough structure was temporarily revealed. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. The group of demons in the valley had already taken their own post. Those who entered the 4 major armies, the wine-making department, and the spirit medicine garden had all chosen what they wanted to do and what they wanted to do. With the 4 major armies as the combat system, the spirit medicine garden, and the wine-making department as the framework, the myriad demon valley finally began to operate. Those who brewed wine, those who planted spiritual herbs, those who planted spiritual herbs, and those who searched for spiritual herbs, and so on. They all knew what they needed to do and what they needed to do. Moreover, under D. Shirtian's orders, Rat Big sent tens of millions of rats out of the southern wilderness to search for the location of various mineral veins. Once they found them, a large number of rats would immediately swarm over and begin to excavate the mineral veins from underground. They would directly transport all kinds of spiritual ores from underground to the myriad demon valley. The rat clan was indeed an expert in digging holes and the ancestors of digging. They were very familiar with excavating mineral deposits and were extremely efficient. Who temporarily took charge of the 7 orifices exquisite pot and constantly led a large number of people to start refining divine crystals. The first things he refined were the demon coins and demon cards. These were the foundation of circulation and the motivation of the group of demons. The demon coins were the size of gold coins and were exceptionally exquisite. There were 2 sides. One side was D. Shirtian's black tiger pattern, and the other side was the image of a majestic divine city. That was the appearance of the future myriad demon city. One was 1 demon coin. A pagoda was once again erected in the valley. This was not the Inch-een pagoda, but the real exquisite creation pagoda. If one wanted to enter it to cultivate and enjoy the 10-fold or 50-fold cultivation speed after reversing time and space, one would first need demon coins. In the first level, one would need to pay 10 demon coins for a day of cultivation in the outside world. In the second level, one would need to pay 50 demon coins to enter. If one wanted to enjoy the unique cultivation speed, all of them were linked to demon coins. This made the group of demons in the valley go completely crazy. They worked even harder to do their jobs. After that, they also looked around for other spiritual materials or spiritual herbs. These could be exchanged for demon coins. Under Old Fox's supervision, divine crystals were being refined one after another. The construction work of the myriad demon city was almost ready. It could start at any time. At this moment, D. Shirtian was in the 3rd level of the exquisite creation pagoda. In front of him, there was a crystal divine tablet that was more than 10 feet tall. On the tablet, countless mysterious seal scripts were circulating. Specks of starlight flickered. It contained an endless mysterious aura. God Sealing Tablet. This was the God Sealing Tablet that was obtained in the Tong Tian Tower back then. In the tablet, the most precious treasure of the demon clan, the demon transformation pool, was sealed. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 465. Ming, can you break the divine sealing tablet this time and take out the flower demon pool sealed inside? It's up to you. In front of Sakra's eyes was a long monolith that was sparkling and translucent like a crystal. Although it was said that this monolith's predecessor was an imitation of the ancient Star Emperor's unique treasure, the stellar demon sealing monolith. However, the one who made it was the divine sealing supremacy. What kind of overlord was the overlord of the ancient times? He was an overlord who was comparable to a heavenly monster and had cultivated the indestructible body. He was second only to the most powerful overlord. In this world, the overall level could be divided into demon race, Spirit Beast, Spirit Monster, Demon Beast, Demon Core First Transformation to Third Transformation, Demon King, Demon Core Fourth Transformation to Sixth Transformation, Great Demon, Demon Core Seventh Transformation to Ninth Transformation, Demon Saint, Heaven Demon, Ancient Giant, Demon God Unparalleled Powerhouse. Cultivators. Chi Refinement, Foundation Establishment, Core Formation, Nascent Soul, comparable to a monster's inner core, Astral Projection, First Transformation Monster Core, Soul Branching, Second Transformation Monster Core, Combination, Third Transformation Monster Core, Tribulation Passing, Fourth Transformation Monster Core, Ascension, Fifth Transformation Monster Core, Earth Deity, Sixth Transformation Monster Core, Sky Immortal, Seventh Transformation Monster Core, Immortal King, Eighth Transformation Monster Core, Immortal Lord, Ninth Transformation Monster Core, Immortal Lord, Ancient Overlords, Ancestral God, Unparalleled Overlords. Among them, Immortal Lords were usually called Perfected Lords and Immortal Emperors were called Supremacies. Monster Gods and Ancestral Gods were already above all living beings. They almost wouldn't die unless they encountered special circumstances. Time couldn't wear down their bodies and divine souls. They were existences that truly stood at the top of the world. Therefore, one could imagine that even though the divine sealing supremacy wasn't a powerful overlord, as long as a powerful overlord didn't appear in the world, the supremacies were the most powerful beings in the world. Once one became such an existence, even a finger would be able to poke a hole in the sky. Killing a monster like Deshurtion was really like killing an ant. He could kill him with a single finger. Back then, in the Tower of Babel, if it wasn't for the fact that it was just a wisp of venerable divine seal's soul, even the blood altar might not have been able to withstand it, let alone the current eye of heavenly punishment divine seal that sucked him into nether prison. Even if he was sucked in, he could break the nether prison with one hand. It was impossible to suppress him. If one were to ask, the God-sealing tablet refined by such an expert, even if it was just an imitation of the ancient Star Emperor's treasure, it would still be extremely powerful. Otherwise, how could it suppress and seal the demon transformation pool? Therefore, even though Ming said that he could break the restriction and transform this bullshit heavenly crystal God-sealing tablet into the real star-sealing devil-sealing tablet, Ming was unable to do so. However, he still couldn't help but ask. Madman D, don't worry. Back then, my master, the Emperor of the Underworld, and the Emperor of the Stars were good friends. They often gathered together to discuss the Tao. If it weren't for some unforeseen circumstances back then, she would have already become my mistress. Do you think I don't understand the starry devil seal steel? If he wanted to refine it, he might not have the ability to do so. However, if he wanted to break this incomplete demon sealing tombstone, he would have to do so. It's not difficult at all. Ming was extremely proud. He was beaming with joy in the nether prison. His dragon whiskers danced wantonly as he shouted confidently, "The key to the starry devil seal steel lies in the stars. It contains the star world in a steel. The 5 elements star force, the Big Dipper, and the crepe myrtle constellation. All the star forces are fused into one. Only the great heavenly star restriction can perfectly fuse the countless star forces together. Collecting the star force in the heavenly star restriction and turning it into a divine restriction, then containing the endless star force, can condense the real starry devil seal steel." Back then, the Emperor of the Stars used the starry devil seal steel to the extreme and evolved the minor heavenly star world. The complete set of starry devil seal steels has a total of 365 pieces. When used at the same time, it can evolve the great heavenly star world. TSK. Back then, it sealed 100 million demon gods at once. That kind of earth-shattering feat shocked the ancient times. What demon gods? Sakra was also listening to these ancient matters with great interest. Suddenly, He caught a wisp of inexplicable information and hurriedly asked, Ming, who was originally in high spirits, couldn't help but chuckle, and she actually went silent for a short while before she said, Madman D, even though you've improved so quickly that it's rare in the world, there are some things that are far from being known to you. I'll absolutely not conceal all of this from you once you possess the strength to know about it. The most important thing for you now is to improve your strength as much as possible. Di Tian fell silent when he heard this. He clearly sensed that Ming was concealing the truth from him. However, he was able to discern that Ming just didn't want him to be too vexed. He didn't blame Ming, and he just clenched his fists in secret and made a firm resolution. Strength. I must become an expert in this world. After he made a firm resolution in his heart, he smiled indifferently and changed the topic. How should I deal with the Godsbane steel? TSK. Perhaps it isn't easy for others, but it truly has too many flaws for me who's capable of anything. Ming shouted. The Stellar Seal Steel's origin is the Stellar Seal Steel's heavenly cycle restriction. With the Stellar Seal formation as a guide, this venerable sealer didn't obtain the complete Stellar Seal formation at all. It's just an incomplete divine restriction, yet he turned it into this bullshit Skycrystal Godsbane steel. His voice was filled with disdain. Madman D, watch carefully. I'll activate the incomplete Stellar Seal steel in a while, and I'll break open this incomplete restriction and return it to its most primitive star energy. Then, I'll reconstruct the complete Stellar Seal formation and return it to its origin. At the moment I break open the restriction, pay attention and immediately place a strand of your origin spirit into the steel. Follow me to reconstruct the divine restriction. Once it returns to its origin, you'll become the new owner of this steel. Ming stretched out his dragon claw and stroked his dragon beard. Even though his tone was filled with disdain, his expression was still rather solemn. Obviously, breaking the restriction wasn't as easy as he'd said. Whoosh! As he spoke, he saw a blood-red dragon claw emerge from the purple mark between Di Tian's brows. The dragon claw appeared in front of the Godsbane steel, and a few of its dragon claws danced nimbly. It rapidly changed its finger technique, leaving behind countless afterimages. In an instant, a dazzling ball of starlight condensed on the dragon claw. The star energy quickly turned into mysterious star talismans following Ming's hand seals. They emitted the light of the stars and danced around the dragon claw spiritually. Rumble! The hand seals were extremely mysterious. Di Tian tried his best to look at them, but after looking at them for a while, he felt dizzy. After looking at them, he couldn't remember them and forgot them in the blink of an eye. It was very strange. A moment later, a palm-sized divine steel appeared in front of the dragon claw, surrounded by specks of starlight. This divine steel was very similar to the God-sealing steel. However, it was many times smaller. On its surface, stars flickered. It was unusually gorgeous and dreamy. Countless talismans flickered inside. When this small divine steel was formed, the space around it distorted. It was as if one could see the shadows of countless stars on it. It was as if they could see a world of stars. Go! Ming shouted. The divine steel shone with starlight and pressed into the Godsbane steel. When it came into contact, the divine steel seemed to be illusory and entered the steel without any resistance. With me controlling the Godsbane steel's most authentic hand seals, a mere broken treasure will obediently submit to my control. Open! He was trying to forcibly control the Godsbane steel in front of him. Boom! The Godsbane steel trembled violently, and a mysterious world suddenly appeared in the steel. Inside, dazzling stars were constantly moving in a mysterious orbit. It was as if the stars contained boundless truths and mysteries of heaven and earth as they revolved. A world of stars appeared in the steel. 123336. There were only 306 stars in the steel's world of stars. When these stars revolved, they would occasionally pause and jerk. This caused the world of stars to become slightly unstable, as if it would collapse at any moment. TSK 365 stars in the universe. This is the origin of the Godsbane steel. There should be 365 stars before it can truly evolve into a world of stars. It can contain the power of millions of stars. There are only 306 stars here, and 59 are incomplete. Flaws. There are flaws everywhere. In the eyes of others, it might not be a big deal. Just this world of stars before them was sufficient to shock countless people. It might even be able to become an expert amongst the ancient overlords. However, in the eyes of Ming, it was practically filled with flaws. 365 pieces were indispensable to begin with. If one was missing, then there would be flaws, let alone when 59 pieces were missing. Break! Ming! Ming roared. A huge divine steel appeared in the world of stars in the steel. It emitted a powerful aura and suddenly swept through the starry sky. It looked like a casual movement, but it exploded with unimaginable power. The revolving heavenly cycle of stars suddenly came to a halt. It instantly disrupted the orbits of the stars. It also destroyed the barely functioning formation. There were so many flaws that in Ming's eyes, they couldn't even withstand a single blow. However, the revolving stars suddenly stopped, and the entire star space shook violently. With a loud boom, large patches of stars collapsed and were annihilated. The collapse happened with incredible speed. In the blink of an eye, it spread to the entire world. In a few breaths of time, the minor world collapsed. It was completely destroyed, transforming into pure, primitive star power. Emperor Lunatic, hurry! Drip a drop of blood on it and imprint your nascent divinity into the steel. Splurt! Sakra didn't hesitate. He waved his hand and cut open a wound on his middle finger. A stream of blood shot out and landed on the god's sealing tablet. He didn't dare to be negligent at all. In his eyes, the crystal tablet that was as perfect as a crystal without a single flaw actually had cracks appearing on its surface. These cracks began to spread rapidly after the world of stars in the steel collapsed. There were more and more cracks, spreading in all directions like a spiderweb. Qi has organized an annual voting. Those who have votes, please help us. Of course, the votes are free. Those who spend money don't need to participate. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.qi.com to read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 466. There was no doubt that if these cracks were allowed to spread everywhere, the divine steel would really shatter on the spot. What Dark did was basically destroying the origin of the divine steel. If the origin was destroyed, how could the divine steel fuse the power of thousands of stars into the steel? The result of the explosion would be the divine steel shattering. Speaking of which, the divine seal steel wasn't so easily destroyed. If a venerable god sealer was controlling it personally, with Dark's current strength, even if he knew the flaws, he wouldn't have the strength to destroy it. If he didn't know how to control the seals of the divine seal steel, he wouldn't have been able to enter the small star world inside the steel. Didn't the Rock Demon King use the lunar god slaying finger outside the Skysplit Tower? It wasn't damaged in the slightest. It was obvious that if it wasn't for Ming, no one would be able to move the god sealing tablet. He could only look at the steel and sigh. There was nothing he could do. The blood essence landed on the steel. It entered the steel at a speed visible to the naked eye. The moment the blood essence entered the steel, the spreading of the cracks on the steel suddenly stopped. Ha! At the same time, from the purple mark between Sakra's eyebrows, an illusory rank 4 black lotus flew out. In an instant, it charged into the god sealing monument. It entered the monument without any resistance and appeared in the collapsed world within the monument. It spun and continuously swallowed the rich power of stars in the surroundings. Stars returned to one, evolved the heavenly cycle stars, appear. A vast roar sounded from the steel. The divine steel that had caused the collapse of the stellar world appeared once again. In an instant, countless talismans flew out, emitting a powerful devouring force that swept through the entire steel. Immediately, the massive amount of stellar force that had dispersed after the collapse of the world was like a tidal wave, crazily surging toward the small divine steel. A vast amount of power of stars was absorbed into the small divine steel. All kinds of power of stars were absorbed into one without any restrictions. Moreover, after the divine steel devoured the power of stars, it also expanded violently. As it shook, it grew crazily and stood tall. It was as if it was splitting the world apart. Countless amounts of power of stars gathered. Just the pressure it emitted was enough to shock a great demon. Bang! When all the power of the stars had been devoured, the divine steel instantly burst open. With a loud bang, a new world was created within the steel. The collapse of the divine steel didn't completely dissipate. Instead, it turned into 365 resplendent stars. The instant these stars burst open, they appeared in various mysterious locations. In an instant, all the stars had a mysterious connection with each other. It began to move in a mysterious trajectory. Swish! Outside of the exquisite pagoda, in the endless starry sky, the power of countless stars was suddenly aroused. The vast power of the stars fell down on the continent, gathered together, and transformed into a pillar of starlight that connected the sky and the earth. A vast amount of star power was drawn down from the boundless starry sky. With a bang, it broke through the clouds and appeared in the sky above the southern barbarian. In an instant, it fell directly into the myriad demon valley, shrouding the exquisite pagoda in the center of the valley under the starlight column. The boundless power of the stars whizzed into the pagoda. At the same time, strands of astral power also seeped out and filled the valley. For a time, a wonderful scene appeared. Bathed in the power of the stars, the flowers and trees in the valley grew crazily at a speed visible to the naked eye, constantly greedily absorbing the huge amount of pure star power in the air. It should be known that the power of the stars was a very wonderful power in the world. After absorbing and refining it, it was purer and more abundant than absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. It could also help to temper the demonic chi in the body, purify the impurities in it, and strengthen the physical body. It could be said that there were many benefits. If one could cultivate under the power of the stars every day, the cultivation speed would be more than 10 times faster than usual. It could also make the demonic chi purer. However, the endless starry sky was too far away from the continent. Under normal circumstances, although there was starlight falling every night, the power of the stars in the starlight was pitifully little and couldn't be used for cultivation. Feeling the huge power of the stars in the Me-Man Valley, all the demonic beasts began to operate their cultivation methods without hesitation, desperately absorbing the power of the stars in the air. However, compared to the light pillar, the power of the stars that permeated the air was like comparing an ant to Mount Tai. The difference was like comparing heaven and earth. A huge amount of star power was directly poured into the pagoda. As soon as it entered the pagoda, it immediately rushed into the stellar demon sealing steel that was standing in front of Di Shirtion. It whistled and formed a beautiful vortex in the air above the steel. The consequence of this endless star power entering the steel was that a huge amount of star power quickly gathered in the small star world that was formed by the universal star Forbidden Land. In the blink of an eye, it filled the entire small star world. Rumble! The stars trembled, and a massive amount of star power gathered. In this small star world, stars were constantly evolving, and they revolved around the original 365 main stars in a mysterious orbit. Driving the star power, it constantly expanded and stabilized this starry sky. Stars were constantly appearing at a speed that was almost visible to the naked eye. Compared to the incomplete starry sky that he saw previously, it was like comparing heaven and earth. There was no comparison at all. In the starry sky, there were talismans formed by star power fluttering in the air and hiding in the void. TSK, how is it? Once the complete universal star Forbidden Land is formed, it can automatically evolve into a small star world. It draws in the star power in the endless starry sky and continuously evolves stars. Venus, Mercury, Jupiter, and so on. When all kinds of star power are gathered, they can evolve into different stars. The more stars there are, the more powerful the stellar demon sealing steel will be. This is a rare treasure in the world. Ming's voice actually carried a wisp of dense dispiritedness. Based on her appearance, she seemed extremely listless. Obviously, what she'd done earlier wasn't something that had been easy for her. In the starry sky inside the steel, a fourth-grade black lotus stood in the center, spinning and slowly absorbing the star power. The entire starry sky seemed to have an inexplicable connection with it. It was mysterious. It was Di Shirtian's primordial spirit imprint. What a great stellar demon sealing steel! Di Shirtian stood in front of the steel and stared at it. After returning to its origin, the steel's appearance did not change. It was still crystal clear like before. However, the crystal light on the steel had completely disappeared. It had become restrained, and countless mysterious star runes could be clearly seen on it. It was more simple and unadorned. If one looked closely, they seemed to be able to see the trajectories of countless stars moving in the steel. It was mysterious. Let me test its power, Di Shirtian thought to himself. With a thought, he was about to activate the stellar demon sealing steel. However, as soon as he activated it, his expression changed. The royal true force in his body surged into the steel like a tidal wave. It seemed like it would consume a lot of true force just to activate it for a few breaths. He had only just activated it. If he really used it against an enemy, then... What a shocking consumption! Di Shirtian immediately stopped, and his gaze towards the demon sealing tombstone became extremely deep as he muttered to himself, I can feel that the tombstone contains a heaven-shaking and earth-shattering power. However, to use this treasure against the enemy, the consumption of true power would be shockingly large. With my cultivation, I can only use it once or twice before using up all of my true force. However, if I use the stellar demon sealing steel, even a great demon would not be able to face it head-on. It was obviously not suitable to use it in a head-on battle, but it would be good to use it as an assassin. This thing consumed too much true force. Of course, Di Shirtian did not intend to use the stellar demon sealing steel against an enemy. This steel had great uses. He had long planned to use it. Divine crystals were the materials used to build the demon city. Each one was the size of a brick. However, even in the mortal world, building a city wall required mud and glutinous rice to make the bricks stick together tightly. In order to build a divine city that had existed since time immemorial, mud could not be ordinary. Originally, he had planned to find the legendary living soil of the nine heavens. However, the living soil of the nine heavens was a spiritual soil born from the primordial chaos. How could it be easy to find? He could only think about it later. Therefore, he thought of a second method. He would use the stellar demon sealing steel to draw in the power of the stars and use it to refine the divine crystals into a complete body without the slightest gap. Day after day, year after year, even the divine crystals would contain the power of the stars. That way, with the guidance of the stars, it would not be difficult to float above the clouds. He would use the city as a treasure to refine it. Di Shirtian also wanted to promote the city in China and make it a divine nation in the hearts of countless people. Naturally, the power of faith would be integrated into the city. The city's power would continue to grow day by day. TSK, crazy emperor, hurry up and have your subordinates excavate the veins and find the materials to refine the divine crystals. The outside world is not suitable for building the city, so we can move the site to the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. Time can be reversed here, and time can be increased by 100 times. The casting can be much faster. Even I am beginning to look forward to what it will be like when the city is completed. Nether also cried out in anticipation. It was the pinnacle of the heavenly secret myriad pivot painting. It was hard not to look forward to it. Tion shook his head slightly and said, "Although the Rat Clan is good at digging, all the tens of millions of them have been spread out. There are only 8 spiritual veins found in the vicinity for the time being. This has already made the myriad Demon Valley operate at full capacity. It can't be faster unless more demons are born." During this period of time, the veins they found were 2 copper concentrates, one of which was a large vein, 3 iron concentrates, 2 large veins, jade veins, and Xianming crystal veins. It was very laborious to mine. Although the mining was not slow, all the resources had been used to the limit. There were no more people in the valley to divide. Now, they could refine about 100,000 demon coins and 5,000 high-grade divine crystals every day. Among them, Tion asked Hu and the others to stop after they refined 100 million demon coins. They would refine the divine crystals with all their strength. Now, they could start to build the city. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. I support the author, support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.